we got a comment on a YouTube video that was like, well, they're just trying to sell packs to you. And I was like,
Yes.
yeah, like, yeah, and they did it, and it's
Water is
cool.
wet.
Like, I don't,
Like
whatever.
that is quite literally their job is to sell packs. So like I don't understand.
Yeah.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Jank Diver Gaming YouTube channel. My name is Timothy Zaccanino, aka Jank Diver Tim, and I'm joined here by Teld and Christopher Sofsky, and we're going to talk Secrets of Strixhaven, high-level cube review here today. Kind of focusing on the Jank Diver Gaming cube, but a couple other things thrown off for the masses, the other cubers out there. Deviating a little bit from how we've done these cube reviews in the past, we've been doing like the ins and out style review where we talked about the cards coming into our cube and the cards that were leaving our cube. I think we're going to revert back to just the normal kind of like talk about everything that's interesting in the set, everything that could potentially make it into a cube like ours. A, to talk about more of the new stuff, and B, so that we don't have to like jam our specific swaps immediately to get this episode in at a reasonable time. So because of that, we'll get to talk about some more cool cards that we probably wouldn't actually put in our cube, which I think is just probably the better way to do it at this point. We did the ins and outs for a couple episodes. People responded somewhat positively, but I think this is just the better way to go about it. And we talked recently about original Strixhaven. I think the three of us all said not like an all-timer for any of us, but is there any excitement to go back to Strixhaven? Second semester?
No, honestly, this set to me, it seems like a fine set and like there's some cool mechanics and stuff, but like a lot of return sets, I just don't really see the reason to return other than it's like something that is expected. You know, you got to go back to Strixhaven because it's a popular setting, I guess. It just didn't really land for me. I didn't particularly care for Strixhaven the first time around, and this set looks mechanically more interesting, but not by much. I mean, other than the cards we're going to talk about, which are really cool.
I mean, for me, like going back to Strixhaven is a question of whether or not they did a better job this time, design-wise. And I'll be completely honest. I will know whether or not I feel that they did when we're done doing this review episode.
Yeah.
I will say it's a rare case of a set where I'm more excited to talk about the mainline cube than the peasant cube, which is not normally the case. In most sets, peasant's way more interesting to talk about. But this set was kind of a whiff on peasant for the most part.
Well, you say that, but Danelius has like 50 cards picked out to talk about for that episode. Yeah. So this is very much for peasant and mainline. This is very much like a not for Jank Diver set because so much like the whole setting is caring about instants and sorceries, and a lot of that just doesn't hit for us, unfortunately. But there are still some cool considerations that we'll pull aside. I think the mechanics, there are quite a few of them that we'll kind of like breeze through here in just a second, but a lot of really cool individual card designs that I think are, cubable. One of our takeaways from reviewing the original Strixhaven is that it doesn't really hold up. We have like 2 cards in our mainline cube that actually still are from the original Strixhaven. So let's see what the second year here does for us, our sophomore year at Strixhaven. Do want to remind everybody listening that you can find the Jank Diver Gaming Discord server wherever you're listening to this in the description, and you can come let us know about what cards you like from the set and come draft with us. I was just reflecting on this the other day, but we're very fortunate to have like some of the top arena players regularly drafting with us, like Elfindor, Flutter, Whale. Like these people were competing for #1 mythic in like TMNT, like all bouncing back and forth for #1 mythic, and they're out here playing Jank Diver Gaming Cube and giving us their opinion and stuff, which is awesome.
I have to say, I'm glad that you brought that up on Wednesday when I was feeling super salty for playing for the first time in months and getting my dick absolutely stomped off, is that the people who did it are, like, stomping all the dicks off.
Yeah,
and then we feel a little bit better, so.
You're, like, literally playing against, like, top-tier arena competitors,
Yeah, no, I did not realize that. That made me feel a little bit better about like not putting up a fight whatsoever.
Would you say that you were unprepared?
We'll get to that.
Okay. I will say this. I've said this before on the podcast, and I'll say it again. One of the joys of being a cube curator is even when you get absolutely annihilated, you are getting annihilated by something that like you insinuated into your own cube design. So in a way, you're just like, I knocked myself out. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So watching the green white flip creature Brigid that I like
Rigid, yeah.
advocated for, and I was just like, all right, it's doing the stuff that I thought that it would do. That took a little bit of the sting out of the fact that it was murdering my face.
If you know Chris's drafting proclivities, I'll give you one guess what deck he drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, pack one, pick one Sephiroth. Like the universe was probably telling you to do it.
How am I not gonna do that?
No,
I mean,
you have to.
also,
You have to.
I mean, it was a combination of our players are all better Magic players than me, and I had some tough draws in my 6th game of the evening. I'm not exaggerating for effect. I drew 10 lands in my top 13 cards.
Yeah, we also watched
hard to
somebody
win when you do that.
We also were spectating and watched somebody keep a one lander, and it just like worked out that they just ran super hot.
They also hit the fire magic off the top of your deck.
Oh, the fire magic pissed me off. No more red sweepers. No more.
No more red sweepers.
No.
Okay.
No.
Oh no, you're not gonna like when I ask for Mizium Mortars back, are you?
Oh boy.
No.
Mizium Mortars will come up in this episode.
I will drive to Georgia, Teld. If that's the reason that we end up hanging out, is that I drive down to Georgia to try to kick your ass, that would be tragic. But
hey, Atlanta. By the way, in November, there's a Magic Fest in Atlanta. I might be going there to do some coverage for news since I'm not going to Vegas. But
in all seriousness, Teld, you should come up to since Tim's back here at some point. You should come up to North Carolina. I've got a guest room.
Yeah, I might actually end up taking you up on that offer. My brother is going to be doing his residency in North Carolina for after he graduated med school.
Let me know when.
Okay.
I'll
see
try to
us.
make the trip.
I'll make time.
And to the listener, if you're still here, feel free to come to North Carolina as well. We'll all hang out together.
No.
If you want to check out Jank Diver Gaming socials, you can do it on YouTube. Jank Diver Gaming, where we've got all those tier lists going, the Peasant Cube tier list, and you can find Teld streaming twitch.tv/Teld Talks TELD.
A lot of Peasant Cube
Talks. Yeah, lots and lots of peasant stuff going on over there. Chris,
really?
we'll get you on the tier list, life here sometime soon. But okay, Secrets of Strixhaven, second semester at the Magic's equivalent of Hogwarts, but they won't say it out loud. Everything's very, very similar. It's still a set based on instants and sorceries. One big note about this set, they did not bring back the feature mechanics of the original. There's no Magecraft and there's no lesson learned. There are technically lessons. There's a cycle of mythic lessons, but no learn cards at all, which I think was, Teld, you said it, it was a lose-lose when they put all the powerful lessons in Avatar: The Last Airbender. There was no way they could bring back learn in any capacity for this set, but it also feels like a bit of a miss to not have lesson learn in this set when it was such a big part of
Avatar original with the standard,
Strixhaven.
right? All these UV sets are standard.
And the lessons deck is
That's like
a top 3 deck in standard.
Yeah, they would have broken something with good learn cards in this set, and I think they understood that when they printed those lessons in TLA, and that's why we didn't get learn here, which is unfortunate because I really wanted to make a push for trying a lesson learn package in a higher power level cube, but we're not going to play all the old learn cards to make that happen. So
insert an appeal here, listeners, if you do spend any time playing Constructed, just quit and come cube.
Stop playing standard.
I can't imagine that there's going to be a good standard literally ever again. But
I don't keep up with it enough to even know what people are talking about it. These days.
Looks like I know this is going to shock you if the last time you paid attention to standard was 3 months ago. But it's a lot of is it? It just is it everywhere.
Is it in Badgermole Cubs and Ouroboros?
I'm looking at
Superior Spider-Man.
Looking at the MTG Goldfish page. It's just a page full of blue-red symbols and Badgermole Cub symbol or Badgermole Cub pictures.
Is Simic Aggro still a thing?
I don't think it's top tier, but I do believe it's Ouroboros decks.
There's a lot of Ouroboros decks. It doesn't look like necessarily Simic.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, quick logistical thing. This set did bring back the Mystical Archive, the second visit to the Mystical Archive, so 60-something bonus sheet cards in the set, 1 per pack. That was a huge thing the first time Strixhaven came around. They kind of delivered, too. Unfortunately, they delivered on the extreme high end and the extreme low end and not a lot in the middle, so we'll touch on a couple of the, not for us cards here in just a moment, but not a lot of them are going to make them in as, things we need to discuss. We've got special guests as well, which one of them I do want to mention here as well.
This taught me we're probably not getting Lava Dart anytime soon, because this would have been the perfect set to reprint it in, right? I've been advocating that I want that card for a while, and there's the Lorehold Gravebreak thing you could have been doing. It would have been a perfect fit, and we didn't get it, and it's... Yeah.
It would have been perfect
what's
for
Lava Dart
Lorehold
again?
too.
Is it like 1 damage for 1 red mana, and then you can flash it back by sacrificing a mountain?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly
Okay.
it.
All right.
Just a fantastic prowess style card. All right, let's talk mechanics real quick. So just to touch on the return and mechanics, Converge is back. That's the mechanic that cares about how many different colors of mana you spent to cast something. I don't think that's going to matter for any of the cards here. It was pretty unpopular when it came out in Battle for Zendikar, and they've used it here and there. And it's here to kind of represent the Archaics, which are these big colorless creatures on Strixhaven. But
Didn't this used to be
Converge
called
is just
Sunburst?
like
Not Eldrazi. They're not Eldrazi.
They're not Eldrazi. Sunburst can only go on permanents, and Converge can go on like spells.
Okay.
So that's the real difference. But a permanent that has Converge is basically the same as a permanent that has Sunburst. Flashback is back, and that is the Lorehold mechanic for the set, which makes sense because Lorehold cares about that grave break, cards leaving the graveyard thing, and Flashback is just a great way to do it. So majority of the Flashback cards are in red and or white. New mechanics, the big one, the headliner of the set is this new mechanic called Prepared, which is really wonky. It's kind of got an adventure frame going on where a prepared creature has a spell on the right half and then its own effect on the left half. And in practice, the way this works is you need to find a way to get your creature prepared. Most creatures will prepare themselves when they enter the battlefield. And once a creature is prepared, you can cast the spell on the right half as if it were like a spell in your hand. Technically, it's like a copy in exile, and it casts from exile, which is really weird. But basically, if you can get your creature prepared, you are allowed to cast this spell on the right-hand side with the normal time and restrictions. If it's a sorcery, you can only cast it at sorcery speed. Most prepared creatures are like one-shot effects, but a lot of the like really good ones have ways to re-prepare themselves so that they can then cast the spell again. And this is basically, it feels like so much of the set is built around this. It's also a really cool way to get extra instants and sorceries into a deck without having to sacrifice like creature quantity. So it lets you go high on like creature density and high on instant sorcery density at the same time. And a lot of the headliners of this set are going to be prepared cards.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll see this set again outside of maybe like a D&D set where that would make a lot of sense. But I really like this mechanic, and this is one of those ones that I don't think would ever show up as like a deciduous style mechanic, but if it did, I wouldn't be opposed. I think it's a really cool use of giving more instants of sorceries in a game that's increasingly hostile to those for cube.
Yeah.
I'm actually a big fan of this mechanic as well, just because it kind of feels like the signature spell thing I thought that they should have done in the original. The card frames themselves are not pretty. I'm not crazy about it, but I've sort of acclimated to them since like the advent of adventures. Obviously, they've been around for a while. This is now a tank podcast, by the way.
Hey, Tank.
Tank.
What's Tank's? What do you think Tank's prepared spell in Magic is?
Ooh.
Is like crash through or something?
Crash through, or what's the red combat trick that we all love so much?
Monstrous Rage?
Monstrous Rage.
Monstrous Rage, yeah.
On the bonus sheet, by the way, for this set. On the bonus sheet. Release the dogs, or release the hounds, or whatever.
Release the hounds, that would be good. Yeah.
Okay, so prepared will come up a lot. There's a mythic cycle, and majority of those made their way onto this dock as well. Just to breeze through the guild mechanics, let me just go through all 4 of them, and then you guys let me know if any of them really like appeal to you in any sense for cube. There's Opus for Prismari, the blue-red mechanic. That is just whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you get an effect, and if you spent 5 or more mana on the instant or sorcery, you get an additional effect. So this is kind of like the Magecraft replacement for Prismari here.
So I guess for this set, they just named it, right? Because they didn't slap a name on it last time, right? It's just a bunch of the Izzet cards.
Yeah,
that,
there were...
You cast over a certain mana value or whatever.
Yeah, and of course that means the set is seeded with a lot of like actual 5+ mana instants and sorceries.
I mean, it's inherently more narrow than like your traditional just instants and sorceries matter.
Though, well, Opus, you still get a basic trigger for just casting any instant or sorcery, so it's still got that kind of like Magecraft prowess vibe, you know.
Okay.
But you get a bigger effect if you cast like a big spell, and it does count the I think I put mana value in the doc. It counts the amount of mana you spent to cast a spell, not the mana value of the spell itself. So you could do some
X
tricksy
spells.
stuff with like X spells or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay.
Silver Quill gets a really cool mechanic called Repartee or Repartee, which gives you, it's a triggered ability when you target a creature with an instant or sorcery, and it triggers if you target your opponent's creature or if you target your own. So combat triggers will trigger Repartee, or combat tricks will work, and removal spells that target your opponent's creatures will also trigger Repartee, which is pretty neat. It's kind of heroic, but it also works if you heroic trigger your opponent's creature, essentially.
Okay.
Infusion is Witherbloom, and it just checks to see if you've gained life this turn. If you've gained life this turn, do X. And, that Witherbloom has more of those pest tokens, which, interestingly, the pest tokens in this set, from the mainline set, they trigger when they attack now instead of when they die, so they're a little different from the previous pest tokens, which is annoying because in the commander precons for this set, they're the old pest tokens, but I don't know if pest tokens are going to come up on any of the cards we're reviewing here, but just something to keep in mind. They're a little bit different.
Some sloppy.
Yeah, I assume Chris cares nothing about infusion and the life gain part of Witherbloom here.
I mean, I am on record as saying that I feel like life gain as an element of like mechanical design it's tough to balance, because paying you off for gaining life means that like your mechanic is like inherently better against something like aggro than it is against something like control that really doesn't give a fuck what your life total is, unless your life total becomes so high that it's impossible for you to lose from anything other than decking. And I haven't looked at a lot of these cards, I'll be honest, but the way that I've always thought that they should leverage life gain mechanically is to print cards that allow you to spend life to do powerful things, so that you can sort of trade in that currency for some kind of board effect. Like your white cards gain you life, your black cards help you spend that life. And I'm assuming that that's not what they did here. They probably just did a when you gain life, something happens.
Pretty much.
Which is always boring, and it always, if they tune it too high, stifles aggro in the limited format every time.
Yeah. They also, I think, there might be some of this stuff going on, but they really did cut back on like the sacrifice part of Witherbloom. Like Witherbloom was basically like aristocrats and life gain, and it's really like 90% life gain in this set.
Yeah, I think they went in the wrong direction on that one, but
yeah, a lot of that's not gonna like hit for this review. Simic or Quandrix blue-green gets increment, which is kind of like evolve that counts spells instead of creatures in turn. So if a creature has increment and you cast a spell with an amount of mana greater than its power or toughness, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So you have a 2/2 in play with increment, you cast a 3 mana spell or more, or you use 3 mana to cast a spell or more than that, and the creature will get a +1/+1 counter. Notably, this is not only instants and sorceries like Opus. This counts any spell you're casting.
creatures,
so it's
enchantments, whatever.
Yep, as long as you spent more mana to cast the spell than either the creature's power or the creature's toughness, you get an extra counter out of it, which is cool. Evolve was always a cool mechanic, and this is like a way more open version of Evolve. Maybe not way more, but you can see the similarities there. Last new mechanic, which will come up on one card I wanted to discuss, is Paradigm. It's only on a cycle of mythics, so not a big thing, but basically a Paradigm spell, when you resolve it, it exiles itself, and then you cast a copy of it every turn for the rest of the game. So it's like a big splashy mythic that's like a little bit overpriced, but then you just get a copy of it for free for the rest of the game, and it's in exile, so your opponent can't like do anything about it.
Yeah, I saw those. They seem very vulnerable to cheap counter magic, but
yeah, and they're also like they're like almost all control cards because they're just overpriced like instant sorceries that you need the game to go long. But there is one that I think is like let's talk about it. Also worth noting, Paradigm cards are all lessons, but there's no reason to care about that in this set. So if you're playing with Lesson Word, you do have some additional lessons that you've got available here. So any of those mechanics like actually seem interesting or cool, or something that you're like, I hope that comes up in this review, you know?
I will say this. I like that in the case of like increment, which applies to any spell type and also checks against power or toughness. And then repartee, which triggers whether or not you're doing like a heroic style thing on your own creatures, you're just playing like a removal heavy like black mid-range deck. I do like it. Feels as though they found a way to go broader. than they
Yeah.
did in their previous in previously in Strixhaven. And I believe you mentioned that like Opus has a trigger that triggers on an instant or sorcery, but maybe gives you like a better effect the larger the spell is. It feels like they kind of learned their lesson because in the last iteration of Strixhaven, I feel like it was plagued by the fact that they were trying to do something like different with these color pairs than they traditionally do, but they also chose to do that in a way that was sort of intrinsically narrow, and this feels a little bit broader. So I wouldn't say that I find any of these mechanics inspiring, but I do like that over time they seem to be learning the lesson that you can make a mechanic that is both sort of thematic but also broad in a way that can span into several different types of strategies. And I think that these designs as a baseline have accomplished that. So that's encouraging to see.
For sure.
I think these are fine for the limited environment. I just don't really, none of them like super compelling beyond prepared, unprepared.
Yeah. I think Repartee is the one that I'm like, oh, that's really cool because there's two different ways to go about it off the same cards.
It is.
I didn't hear Sacrifice, so I'm not happy. But
No, not in there, not in there. Prepared, I think we can all agree. Prepared is actually pretty cool, and there's a lot to think about with those prepared cards, which will come up a lot here.
some of the spells, like I do like that they were able to take these like really classic, like printed 30 years ago. Every invested Magic player is aware of what these cards do, like classic spells on some of these prepared cards. Really cool.
Yeah. I mean, one of them, the only Emeritus we're not going to talk about has Ancestral Recall as its prepared spell. Like that, people will cast Ancestral Recall for the first time. You know,
I did kind of want to talk about that one. I won't lie.
Sure, throw it on. I don't. We can. Let's just talk about it when we get to blue.
Okay.
I wanted to mention the bonus sheet here. There's only like one or two bonus sheet cards that we'll actually evaluate for the purposes of like our cube. This is a very powerful bonus sheet though for people who play timeless or power maxed arena cubes. You're getting Vampiric Tutor, you're getting Force of Will, you're getting Armageddon, you're getting Daze. On Arena, for people who don't know this, they actually replaced Library of Alexandria on the special guest sheet. Or they replaced Library of Lang with Library of Alexandria, so you'll be able to craft Library of Alexandria now on Arena as well. And that's not even an exhaustive list. There's like Ad Nauseam on here. There's Angel's Grace. There's all sorts of, there's like Live and End. There's Berserk. Like they really went ham on the bonus sheet here. It's just that we don't play with a lot of these hyper powerful cards and the free spells and stuff like that. So congrats to the timeless people out there, but for our purposes, like this bonus sheet actually is mostly a miss, unfortunately. But we already have a lot of the stuff that they would put on here anyway. So just wanted to touch on that real quick, and then any other good bonus sheet cards that we feel are a good fit for us, they'll show up in the rest of the review, which unless you guys have any other preliminary stuff, we should probably jump into the cards here.
Let's do it.
All right, so white, as usual, has a good chunk of stuff to talk about, and get to kick off with a little common here. This is Elite Interceptor. It's a single white mana for a 1/2 human wizard. It enters prepared, so a lot of these prepared creatures already come in prepared. They don't all do that, and its spell is called Rejoinder. Whatever that means. It's 1 and a white for a sorcery. You may tap or untap target creature and draw a card. And then you get this immediate comparison to Thraben Inspector, right? A 1 mana 1/2 that for 2 mana you can do something and draw a card. In this case, you actually get to manipulate combat, which is stronger than Thraben Inspector. When you actually get to do that and just like jam with a bunch of creatures. Of course, you don't get to like sandbag your clue, and then if the Thraben Inspector dies, you just use the clue later. You kind of have to like use it or lose it. So it's not like a strict upgrade. It's not a strict downgrade. It's just a side grade to these Thraben Inspectors that I find really interesting, that like your Thraben Inspector can like tap down a blocker and like push your whole army through a big blocker or something like that. That strikes me as really interesting for a common.
Yeah, so for Peasant, I think this effect is interesting, but like ultimately a little less impactful, just because the games tend to go a little longer, so there's a lot more like random tokens floating around. But honestly, in the main line, I mean, we're not running that many 1-drops, and you do want some 1-drops in your more aggressively inclined decks that generate some value and be able to like, tap down a big green creature to push through some damage is pretty nice. This triggers like Mischievous Mystic and Clarion Spirit as well if you want them to. It helps you with that. I don't think this is any kind of world beater, but I can see this being testable just because you're in for these like one drops that can generate some value at some point in the game, and like you said, open up combat opportunities.
I'm gonna go a step further than both of you.
Oh,
I think that
hit me.
I think this is a perfect card. I think it's perfect.
Perfect magic card.
All right,
Okay.
Chris, pause for just a second. I'm gonna clip the Homelander meme where he's like,
And I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah. Teld realized this long before I did. I don't want to comment on where Tim came to this conclusion, but eventually we all lined up. Always listen to Teld. Acronym forthcoming. But the way that our white section has gone recently from being sort of like the redheaded stepchild of the cube to being like a legitimate primary color. And I think in large part that's because we figured out what its identity was, and it wasn't Savannah Lions. It was bodies, value, wide and tall, right? That's how white tends to win. And actually, the guys over at we were on their podcast. So I don't remember what it's called.
Lucky paper.
Yeah, Lucky Paper. They realized this even well before I did, which is like your white one drops, like they don't have to be Savannah Lions. Like honestly, they're better off being one drops that have a body that's not completely irrelevant for the cost that generates some type of value. And I think that's even amplified in our own cube design with sort of like the anthemic effects that we have, whether if you're playing black, sacrifice, whatever. Honestly, if our white one drop section could be 6 Thraben inspectors, I would just run 6 Thraben inspectors right at this stage, like over basically any Savannah Lions variant that isn't red, because for whatever reason these days red gets the best Savannah Lions variants and white doesn't. I don't want to get into a discussion about whether or not this is better or worse than Thraben Inspector, but in those games where you play this and crack the effects, and you don't have a white design that cares about artifacts or like game object generation necessarily. In some cube designs, this is better than Thraben Inspector. In some cube designs, it's worse. Mm-hmm. But it is another inspector. And I think with the consistent focus that they've put in design on taking cheap, shitty bodies and making them punch above their weight, that has just been the theme for white design, seemingly for the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Print one of these every set, and I'll be a happy man. I think this is a great one drop, and I think you should play it.
I'm into it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for Peasant, it's a pretty clear, like, this is worse than Thraben Inspector in most environments. But I do think I think you're right that in our power level with the lack of care about the object itself, I think that this is a lot closer of a comparison. Just there's a lot more you can do with it in the powered environment for pushing through damage.
Yeah, and that makes it a lot better off the top too, right? Like you play this as a 3-mana creature, tap a blocker, attack in. Like that's not what Thraben Inspector does.
Yeah.
So
no.
My suspicion is, and again, it's a side grade, it doesn't really matter. My suspicion is this actually might be better than the Inspectors for our main line. Clearly worse at Peasant, but
for our design potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and as we've all noted, like if you care about artifact affinity or like making 2 objects for 1 body, it's a little worse. But I don't think that it can be argued that if you don't care about that tapping a creature and drawing a card for 2 mana is worse than just drawing a card for 2 mana. It's better.
Yeah, there's the other side of this too is the occasional untap, and I don't think there's that much you're going to be untapping for value. Like, Globalomancer maybe once in a blue moon that comes up. But I think like being able to give a creature vigilance on occasion, essentially vigilance, could be relevant. Like that's probably a lot less relevant, but that is something that's going to occasionally most likely come up at some point.
What is the word rejoinder? What does that mean?
I put it in chat. The definition.
Oh, okay, gotcha. One other small note about this, because it actually does lead into our next card very well. But this is these prepared cards, especially these really cheap ones. easy to trigger Clarion Spirit, Quarry Steelcutter with these things. They're two spells in one, and it's another way to sneak in some of these repartee trigger cards because you just have this targeted spell attached to a creature. So,
Oh yeah, because this counts as a spell cast, right? It doesn't. So
Yeah,
these abilities can be countered with like a counter spell. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But they
it's
also
just
trigger.
cast a spell.
Okay.
Yeah.
it's a really weird under the hood thing. When you control one of these creatures, you have a copy of the card in exile, and when you cast it, it casts the copy from exile. It's really
So like you have a copy in
strange.
exile as long
Strange.
as this card is in play, essentially.
Yeah. And that means it triggers things like Prosper, I believe, because you cast the spell from exile, which is really, really strange. But
That is strange, but cool.
Oh, this is kind of sick for
right.
what's the red white card that makes Thopters when you cast spells from exile?
yeah, Pia,
Pia, yeah.
the Pia, sweet card. Okay, Informed Inkwright. This is our first repartee card. It's 1 and a white for a 2/2 human wizard. It has vigilance and repartee. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery that targets any creature, you make a 1/1 white and black inkling with flying. So get a 1/1 flyer whenever you cast an instant or sorcery that targets a creature. And notably, that does have to be instant or sorcery that you cast on the stack that targets. So like your Oblivion rings and stuff don't get this hoop, but if you path to exile something, Swords to Plowshares, whatever, you get a 1/1, or if you combat trick, like if you're in green white and you Tyvar stand to save your own creature, you get a 1/1. I think this is a clear call out card that is like I would feel like we missed something if we didn't call it out. I don't know if the density of actual like targeted instants and sorceries in our white section is enough to like justify
It's
it though.
six.
It's almost a
six-
black-white card.
6, 7 if we want to count the card we just talked about, because I assume it's
What was that? What did you just say? What was that?
Yeah, so not that many cards you can use to target. You're not gonna like, at least in color. This could be an interesting Boros card because then you get access to all of the cheap burn. But like the problem too is that this kind of card strikes me as the kind of card that like is going to struggle to find a home, right? Because a lot of times in your aggressive decks, you don't want to overload on removal because you want to be adding to the board. You want to run some, but and in your more control-y decks, I don't know if the output here is enough. It might be. It might be enough, but like it doesn't really necessarily, even in multicolor, seem to have a home to me. But it is a really cool card. Like, this is going to be good in somebody's cube. I just don't think it necessarily... I don't know if it fits in our cube.
Well, the output is like, you get Clarion Spirit, right? If you trigger it once, you get what you would have got off a double spelling with a Clarion Spirit.
Yeah.
So, like, this on turn 3 into a 1-mana interaction spell that targets... that's enough to... Like, 2 mana for a 2/2 and a 1/1 fire is clearly, I think, a good enough card. Our question would be, can we get that reliably with the hoop of having to target something with an instant or sorcery?
I mean, this strikes me as a card that, like, if you are doing a certain thing in your white section or in your, I guess, Boros crossover or Orzhov crossover, then your eyes probably lit up and you know that you want this card.
Yeah.
If you didn't immediately instinctively know that you wanted this card, you probably don't. Like, my guess is that for most generically or generally designed white sections, this is going to be a Selfless Spirit that doesn't trigger as often. But if you're doing heroic stuff, it's obviously fantastic, especially since 1/1 flyers are really good candidates for augmentation if you're doing that kind of thing, right? So, like, the body coming with arguably the best keyword in Magic is solid. But if you're not sure whether or not your cube wants this card, my guess is that you have better options.
Yeah. And this is kind of a poster child for a lot of these repartee cards that I just left off completely because they all kind of fit in this same category. There's like a 1-mana 1/1 that has +1 counter when you trigger. There's a 3-mana flyer that puts a +1 counter on all your stuff when you trigger repartee. It's just like, we could talk about all of them and have the same exact conversation. So this is basically the only one that doesn't do something like completely unique we have to talk about. Okay, the first Emeritus. So there's a cycle of mythics called, Emeritus of whatever, and they all have an alpha spell as their, like an alpha card as their prepared spell. This one is 1 white for a 3/3, Emeritus of Truce, Cat Cleric. When it enters, target player creates a 1/1 white and black inkling with flying, so 1/1 fire. Then, if an opponent controls more creatures than you, this creature becomes prepared, and the prepared spell is Swords to Plowshares. First off, if you just ignored Swords to Plowshares on this, it's still a 3. You can target yourself or your opponent. It's a 3-mana 3/3 that makes a 1/1 flyer, which is, it's double white, but that's a lot of stats for 3 mana. Alternatively, the joke here being that you can target your opponent, give them the 1/1 flyer, and then if that puts them over the number of creatures, you get a Swords to Plowshares, which you can then use to kill some bigger creature. So it's almost like a 3-mana 3/3 that downgrades your opponent's best creature into a 1/1 flyer. And alternatively, you could ignore Swords to Plowshares completely and just be like, I want a 3/3 and a 1/1. And even then, if you do that, you get 2 bodies and your opponent still has more creatures than you just get the Swords to Plowshares for free. So you don't always get the swords here. A lot of times, I think to get the swords, you're going to have to give your opponent the 1/1 flyer to put them over the number of creatures you control. But yeah, I mean, 3-mana 3/3 and a 1/1 flyer I think is a solid deal. We're seeing a lot of these 2 bodies and 1 type cards that are excelling in white right now. The only thing that really holds me back on this one is white in the casting cost, and white 3-drops being just like a killer section of cards to contend with.
Well, not to mention on our own cube, we're literally running 3 creatures that cost double white.
Yeah, this card's really good though, right? Like, I mean,
It is
4/4 worth of stats for 3 mana is a pretty good rate. We get it on a flyer, like we're contributing to the go wide plan. I like that this is sneaky 3 cards in 1, and I think you mentioned this, Tim, but like if you need to, this card either gets you ahead, right? If you're really far behind, it catches you up. And then if your opponent just has you're like roughly even, but your opponent has a really, really good card, you can give them the token and then pass their best creature. Which, like, the cards that are like 1 mana, kill a thing, give your opponent a thing, they all suck. But they suck because that card always does that thing. And when this card, when you're ahead, doesn't give them anything, it just makes you further ahead. But if you need it to, it has that potential bailout option of being like transform their worst card into a 1/1. I think that's probably good enough. This card seems really good.
well a 1/1 plus life gain. Let's not forget that.
Yeah,
Of it, right?
Swords to Plowshare does gain a life.
Sure. Yeah.
I think this is an interesting design. I think it's powerful. In the way that our own cube is designed, I think the frequency that you're the white player and you're behind on creatures is going to be pretty low. But it will happen. And in the event that you are in a white deck, in our cube design, and I think, frankly, in a lot of cube designs that are doing, like, fair magic type things, in the event that you are ahead on creatures, making a 3/3 and a 1/1 flyer is good. Is it as good as just playing Blade Splicer? I'm not sure. But it's still pretty good, and when you're behind, this will help you no longer be behind. Insofar as, like, you're generating 2 bodies and you're going to be able to eliminate your opponent's best creature at the exchange of life, which, matters, but also doesn't. I definitely think this is worth a test, but I think that anyone who does test it is going to have to be mindful of how many double white 3-drops that they're playing, because, like, you're spoiled. You really are spoiled for choice. I mean, in our own cube, we're currently running Flicker Wisp, Enduring Innocence, which Enduring Innocence is insane. Like, I think Enduring Innocence is like a forever white card, personally. Suki has been nuts. Adeline is not maybe what she used to be, but she's still very strong.
This card's better than Adeline, right?
Yeah.
Probably. I will go on record and say that it's very different than Adeline. I think that its power cap is higher than Adeline's is by a lot.
Its floor's better too, right? Like, you don't have to attack, you just get like 2 things.
Yeah, I mean, Adeline
there's
has
spots
the
where
benefit of, like,
Adeline's gonna be
Adeline
better.
doesn't have to attack.
Yeah, like Adeline.
Yeah.
Well, Adeline's also sometimes just gonna like kill your opponent. That is something that does come up with that card, and this card's not.
Adeline doesn't die to fire magic, ever.
Correct. Yeah.
This is true.
Adeline can win the game on its own. I mean, I'm not even trying to make comparisons here. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
I
White
think this is
threes
a
are
powerful and
stacked.
cool design, but
Yeah, I
white
get what
threes
you're
are stacked. For Tim's point.
Agent Bishop was a recent pickup too. One thing to note here too is if you're never getting the Swords to Plowshares, that means you're ahead on board. It's like the Beza thing where it's like, oh, I didn't get all these cool modes off of Beza. It means you were ahead on all those modes, So, like, yeah, as cool as it is to get Swords to Plowshares, being ahead on board in a white deck is also pretty cool these days. Like, you combine this with any Anthem, and white is loaded with Anthems, you just get so much stats out of this. And it's just cool. Like you said, it's just cool to be like, Swords to Plowshares. None of us even read what that does, because people just know what Swords to Plowshares is, right? We don't have to read the card.
Yeah.
And we don't play with Swords to Plowshares. This is a cool way to insinuate, like, to repurpose things that people know that are really strong, powerful magic cards, and not actually have to play with the broken version of the card. Okay. Next spell is Erode. This was a big deal for Constructed. This is white for an instant. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card and put it on the battlefield tapped. So, path to exile, except instead of exile, and it destroys, and it can hit planeswalkers, is kind of the upgrade that you're getting in exchange for weaker removal.
I mean, there's not really a whole hell of a lot to say about this, right? I mean, the conditions of your cube design dictate whether this is better or worse than Path.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it doesn't have to be an either or situation either. Like you can play.
No,
both.
you could play both. I mean, you could easily play both. I mean, who knows? We haven't talked about it, but we might play both. It suffers from the same thing that Path does, which is that you don't want to path something super early because ramping your opponent in contemporary Magic is really fucking brutal. But this solves more problems, or actually, I don't even know if it necessarily solves more problems, right? It depends on how recursive your black section is, or how much the decks in your environment leverage the graveyard. But I mean, it's Path to Exile with some marginally different considerations.
Yeah, like this doesn't hit Scarab God well, but it hits, Vivian. And so it's like it's a trade-off. It's again, it's a side grade. I think there are reasons to think one is better or worse than the other. I think it's a good pickup regardless of whether you think it's better or worse than Path.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, my personal instinct is that for a lot of environments, I'd probably still prefer Path, because the thing about Planeswalkers is, like, creature removal is kind of tangentially planeswalker removal, because you remove blockers and then you attack them with planeswalker, right? So like maybe the exile is more valuable. But I mean, if you don't have anything in your environment that is recursive or access to the graveyard, like let's assume some theoretical scenario where you don't have a single card in your cube that does that, then this is like obviously better. So it really just depends. But fine removal spell, has all the same problems as Path does.
I don't consider Path super premium either. Like, it's good. Like, in spots where it's good, it's fine. Okay. But yeah, this is just, this is another option in that bad removal, but like really efficient.
Yeah, I mean, being 1 mana does put it, I think, above like your Get Lost and stuff like that, but it's still not Sword Supply. It's in like the tier 2. It is also, like, I know people say this all the time and you never actually do it, but this is better at using, like, being a ramp spell for you, because it doesn't exile your own creature, so you can do like something loopy with a Bloodghast or an indestructible creature. You can target your own indestructible creature just to turn this into a rampant growth or whatever. I still don't think you'll ever actually really do that enough to actually even like spend the time to talk about it, but people always like to bring it up, so I'll mention it. Last white card, Chris, I'm assuming you're blanked intentionally here for a second, but
correct.
Winds of Abandon.
And now I'm back.
Hey, he's back. Okay, Winds of Abandon. Quick conversation on this one. So this is 1 and a white sorcery. Exile target creature you don't control. For each creature exiled this way, its controller searches for basic and puts it on the battlefield tapped, and it has overload for 4 white. So for 6 mana, you wipe out all your opponent's creatures, and they get a basic for each one. Clearly, this is a reprint from one of the Modern Horizon sets. I don't know which one. And basically, Mizium Mortars as a white card. Classic.
This was originally a Modern Horizons card, right? It was an MH card.
I want to say the first MH1. Yeah, I think.
This is very cool of them to put on the client a Plague Wind that works against Persian and gives him exactly 1 basic land.
Yeah, because he only has 2 basics in his deck.
I don't usually like alt arts, but this is a gorgeous piece of alternate art. I mean, this is a slam dunk as far as I'm concerned. I really like this.
Chris wants to play Winds of Abandon confirmed.
Zuzana
I don't.
Was it Wuzik?
This card's really strong.
I don't.
Mizium Mortars was really strong. This card's arguably even more powerful in certain spots.
Yeah, so
I'm not personally a fan of one-sided wipes, and I'll leave it at one-sided wipes with cheap buyouts.
Yeah, I like 2-ply personally. One-sided doesn't do it for me. So yeah, are we all in agreement? Like, no for Jank Diver Gaming Cube on this one.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. I mean, we could talk about it offline, but like, I don't like it for the same reasons that I don't like Museum.
It didn't feel like it went straight into the Force of Will Vampiric Tutor category, but still we want to due diligence mention this card.
I'll put it this way. I don't like it. I didn't like settle the wreckage for this reason. I don't like it when there is a card in a creature deck matchup that just solves the matchup when you draw it. I don't like that from a design perspective. I don't like it. However, I do think it's cool that it's an available tool on the client now for people who do like that.
Yep.
I just don't like the idea of there being, and who knows, like maybe you might like it for the same reason that I don't, right? Like maybe the idea that you're in a board stall because both players have gone like wide and big, and like how the fuck is anybody going to win? The math is impossible, and there's a draw in someone's deck that solves that problem. Maybe you're into that, and I'm not making a value judgment about that. I'm just not personally crazy about it.
Totally fair. Okay, blue, a couple creatures here. Jadzi, Steward of Fate. I think this is a interesting comparison to Chrome Host Seed Shark. I don't actually think that it's better, but I do think, again, talking about side grades here. So this is 2 and a blue for a 2/4. It enters prepared. When it enters, you draw 2 cards and then discard 2 cards. So 3 mana 2/4, draw 2, discard 2. Its prepared spell is called Oracle's Gift. It's XX blue for a sorcery. Create X00 fractal tokens and then put X +1 counters on each of them. So for 5 mana, you can make 2 2/2s. For 7 mana, you can make 3 3/3s.
At sorcery
so on and
speed,
so forth from there. Sorcery speed. So I wanted to, so, when this was spoiled, I was like, oh, I think maybe we got better Chrome Host Seed Shark. I think the comparison is close without, again, one being significantly better than the other. I do think Seed Shark is probably still has the payoff of the creatures that Seed Shark makes, I think, are a little more obvious. Like, if it lives, you get more out of the creatures, because you do have to dump a turn's worth of mana to make tokens off of this, and it's really not great until you get to 7 mana and you're making 3 3/3s. Like, yeah, 5 mana for 2 2/2s is something extra on top of your 2/4 that already, shaped up your hand. But Seed Shark,
though.
Yeah, Seed Shark. The thing is, you do have to invest mana to make Seed Shark's tokens pretty good, become alive as well. So the total mana investment's probably like roughly the same, but Seed Shark, you can like bank mana and do it at instant speed, which I think is a pretty significant thing. The thing is, Seed Shark does not draw 2, discard 2 on ETB, so that also is like relevant text.
Seed Shark also doesn't have to be in play to leverage its card advantage, right? Once it generates the token, at some point you're going to get that token. Of course, obviously it dies immediately, whatever. I just fail to see like when we're going to be happy to make 2 2/2s for 5 mana. So I'm assuming this is like a 7 mana spell where we're starting to get at least reasonable board presence for that. This card seems fine. I think the cool thing about Seed Shark is just that when you play it on like 5 mana, right? The kind of the Abort Oculus thing, you play it with a counterspell backup. A lot of times you can just like kind of force through the Seed Shark and just sit on it, and it'll eventually have the ability to generate a lot of advantage. I don't think Seed Shark has shown since we brought it back to be nearly the card it was when we cut it.
It's not.
I think this card plays worse, even if it reads like it could be okay. I think Seed Shark just plays better into the kind of space that we play in with the Jank Diver Cube.
I mean, that being said, like draw 2, discard 2 on ETB,
sure.
Like you're gonna set your hand up, right? Assuming that you did a good job in deck building. Unless RNG is really not in your favor, like you're going to be able to set your hand up pretty nice. But obviously Seed Shark has the advantage of like, if you follow it up with a 4 mana Planeswalker, you have a 4 mana 2/2 that's activatable for 2 mana at instant speed on board, and you didn't really have to invest any mana to like make that a possibility, and if it gets removed, you can activate it later. My instinct is that Seed Shark is probably better in more blue decks, and that Jadzi is probably better specifically in Simic.
I'm going to run this is going to be a banger in my Magus Lucia Kane deck.
Yeah, I mean, a ramp decks where if you're in a deck, Simic, where you conceivably can get to 7 mana, which is the sweet spot on this card. Like, if you can do the Oracle's Gift for 7 mana, like, the card is obviously excellent. It's a 3 mana 2/4 that shaped up your hand and then dumped 3 3/3s into play at some point later. Like, it does that modal blue finisher style thing, like all the other ones. That said, I think I agree that Seed Shark is, like, better for more blue decks, plays better with, like, instant speed stuff than this one. I guess if you're on things like Abhorrent Oculus, Treasure Cruise, Dig Through Time, stuff like that, you might consider this over it. But even then, Seed Shark is good with Treasure Cruise, Dig Through Time.
I don't know. Oculus is so busted.
Yeah, but this fills the graveyard a little bit.
Card. I do miss that card.
So cool one.
Cool one. For us, for our design, here's what I will say. Seed Shark is it's a known quantity, so I don't think it would be. I think it could be interesting to just try Jadzi over Seed Shark for like a little bit, right? I don't think it's going to change the texture of the blue section.
Tonk it, yeah. But if you're playing in paper and card investment matters from a financial perspective, and you already have a copy of Seed Shark, my guess is that this probably works better in your blue decks than Jadzi does. Yeah. It just plays into the instant. Like this plays into a different style of blue deck, I think, than Seed Shark. So even though the stat lines line up and like the creature token creation lines up a little bit, like they're fundamentally for different styles of decks. So, okay, Sky Coach Conductor. This is 2 and a blue for a 2/3 bird pilot. I don't know why would a bird ever need to be a pilot. Flash, flying, vigilance, and it enters prepared. That's the key for these prepared spells. Its instant is called All Aboard. Costs a single blue mana. It's an instant. Exile target non-pilot creature you control and then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So we got like a blue Restoration Angel-ish going on here.
Yeah, this card's awesome.
I think it's okay. You go ahead, Teld.
I mean, maybe awesome's an overstretch. This is just the kind of card that I really like. First of all, Flash, Flying, Vigilance, great combination of keywords. Flash is absolutely mission critical on this because it makes it into... This is one of the things I really like about some modern Magic designs, and I know there's some criticisms of this, and I've expressed my own concerns around giving everything flash and stuff like that, but on specifically cards like this, it kind of makes them into modal cards, where you can like fire this off at the end of turn 3, and it's a flash vigilance flyer that has a little bit of extra value, but later into the game, like you said, it's a Restoration Angel, right? In blue, you can flash it in, you can like immediately use the prepared spell to brick a removal spell on the stack. This just does a number of relatively decent things. Like the rate's not insane, and I think you're going to want to have some targets for this at somewhere like 2 to 3 mana that you're planning on hitting. But I mean, if you've got obviously Blade Splicer is like the gold standard for blinking, but if you've got cards that are worth blinking at 2 to 3 mana, so like for example in our environment you've got Elite Spellbinder, you've got Surus, which is the Peter Parker Spider-Man, you've got Flicker Wisp would be very, very funny because then you could Flicker Wisp to blink this to reset the prepared, which is super cute if you're dodging a removal spell. There's like Lauren and Sanguine Evangelist and Suki, which is like just requires a permanent to leave the battlefield. So there's a number of cards at like 2 to 3 mana in like white. Blue, there's a little less, right? There's like Jill and Plume-Treed Escort or something that come to mind, Snapcaster Mage, that sort of thing. This is just a really cool design. Like, in terms of overall power and, like, the congestion of good blue 3-drops we've got, maybe it doesn't end up making the cut, but anytime we see a card with, like, Flash that gives some play to blue decks, I'm always at least interested in it, because these cards almost always overperform. Like, even cards like Glenelender Guardian's another one that I think has been really impressive when you watch someone play it well. I've watched a lot of people mess it up and just play it poorly, but when you watch people play it well, it looked like a pretty good card. And I think a lot of that just contributes to the fact that it's a flash tricksy creature. And I do have to admit my own biases, because everybody knows that I love these sort of cards. Like, these are the kind of cards that I just want to jam like 23 of them in a deck with some repulsive mutations and call it a day. But I do think this is a really cool card. And I think the ceiling on it is at least interesting, because that being able to, like, again, handcuff the game. This is kind of like when the Ephemerates face up and you just know that your opponent can brick whatever you target.
Got to play into it at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really cool card. I think it's partially dependent on the value of what you can flicker. I'll be honest, the blue card for our own list that, like, jumps out to me is, like, maybe we should try it over this is probably Jill. But I just checked, and Jill has trophied 4 times in the last, like, 7
Jill
weeks.
is low-key very good, yes.
Tishana's Tidebinder, I think, is, like, a forever card, personally. Svalin, very good. Seed Shark we just talked about, and then there's Borrower, which is not the card that it used to be, but still solid. So we can talk about that offline. But I do think, what's the stat line on this fucking thing? It's 2/3.
2/3.
I do think like 2/3 that you can play, and then basically like it demands a removal spell because it could protect anything else, or 4 mana, not quite as good Resto Angel. There's some flexibility there.
Yeah, the one downside of this card, if I'm like thinking how it could play out, is like you play this, you don't have a proactive target to hit, and then your opponent just removal spells this, and it's because it's a little understated, and that could happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
This dies to cut down, this dies to lightning bolt for 3 mana. Like I could see the Trixie part of this, maybe too much of the budget is in that. It's entirely possible. Just a really cool card, if nothing else. Like this is the kind of card that sparks joy for me, personally.
Yeah, there's a dream here with this.
It's a cool card.
I like the idea of Resto that you can offload it a turn early and then hold up essentially the other mana, on a later turn. Like just sneak it in 1 turn earlier and then be like, okay, well I'm sandbagging the other mana, but I've already got the creature into play, and it has vigilance and flying too, so that's an annoying combination of evasive damage. So cool. Again, does it supplant a 3-drop? We'll talk about that offline, but definitely worth the conversation at least. Chris, I added the blue Emeritus here for you if you wanted to talk about some power 9.
I'll read it real quick. Okay, so Emeritus of Ideation is a 5 mana 5/5 flyer with Ward 2 that enters prepared. Whenever this creature attacks, you may exile 8 cards from your graveyard, which is a shitload. So if you have other cards in your deck like Treasure Cruise that leverage the graveyard, you might want to consider how many of those you can actually support. But when it attacks, if you have 8 cards in your graveyard, you can exile them and prepare the creature again. And the prepared spell is Ancestral Recall, which everyone knows what Ancestral Recall is. 1 mana, or 1 blue mana, draw 3 cards, which is crazy. I think that the best play pattern for this card is you'd probably play it on 6. Even if your opponent held up like Doomblade mana, they're probably not going to be able to do that because of the Ward 2, and for 6 mana you get a 5/5 Ward 2 flyer that drew 3 cards, which is a very good deal.
Which, by the way, if they have the Doomblade, like Ancestral Recall's an instant, so you could just fire off in response to the Doomblade anyway. So. Correct,
and you don't have to fire it off until the trigger activates, and you force them to pay the additional 2 mana to target the creature in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that this I think this is pretty good. I do. The problem is that Wan Shutong All-Knowing is very strong, and Quantum Riddler is also very strong. This may sound crazy, but there's a part of me that wonders if this is better than Quantum Riddler. But I don't play as much Magic as you guys do.
It's most definitely not better than Quantum Riddler. Without having played it, I can guarantee that is.
My gut definitely tells me no, but like I see where you're.
Quantum Riddler is probably a reason not to play the 2/3 Flash Flyer, huh?
Well, no, that's cool. People, come on, give me my turn 3 Quantum Riddler. Stop it.
Oh shit! Yeah. That's good.
But by the time you can do that, you could have almost just cast a Quantum Riddler for what it's worth. So.
Correct. I think this card is solid. One of the other things that interested me is like I put it in the chat. Can you guys see the art for Arcanus the Omnipotent?
Is it the OG?
There is a part of me that wondered if this was like a really distant reference to that card. Because Arcanus draws 3 cards. Maybe yeah. I don't know. But when I was a kid back in like 1998, and my friend pulled an Arcanus out of a pack, I just remember seeing this piece of art and it really stuck with me. So like maybe that's what it is. And then there's also the question of like, is Emeritus of Ideation better than like Imrith from AFR?
That's what I was thinking.
Which is a 5/5 flyer for 5 that has Ward 4 as long as it's untapped, and then you only draw cards on combat damage. So my guess is that this is probably stronger than Imrith is. But it drew some comparisons, and I'll just say this, like, if I was playing your cube and I saw Emeritus of Ideation in there as, like, a 5-mana top-end blue thing, I wouldn't think it was embarrassing. So if you like the art, you like the vibe of the card, I think that this is viable. It's just probably not as good as stuff that you already have access to. I don't know if you guys have anything to add, but I just thought it was worth mentioning.
That's my gut feeling. Is we talk about this all the time. How all of our blue top end seems to also function at lower parts of the curve, and this is strictly a 5 or 6 drop, whereas your
Correct.
Meringue River Prower, your Horned Lockwell, your Quantum Redor, they all do things earlier on. So I don't think there's the room for it, but I don't think it's an embarrassing card to resolve for 5, even 6 mana.
Speaking of which, I actually reached out to Theo for the first time in a really long time because
yeah.
I will always take some degree of pride in this, but like the second place CubeCon guy discovered Cube in our community. But I reached out to him to tease him a little bit because Horned Lockwell has been very good, and he once described it as awful and like laughed that he did the Theo laugh, the kind of like sarcastic, condescending Theo laugh when I thought we should play it. And I was like, it's actually been really good.
We should all message him. The same
Yeah,
message.
well, no, I did, and he was like, I don't remember. What did he say? He was like, he told me he didn't remember.
Oh, of course you don't remember,
bullshit.
Theo. Of course you don't remember.
What he said is, did I say that? It's not bad, haha. So
Okay.
you wriggled out of it this time, Theo. But
okay, I'm glad you added this because it means we get to at least talk about all the Emerituses, and they're some of the coolest cards in the set for sure. I mean, cool. I know some people think we got a comment on a YouTube video that was like, they're just trying to sell packs to you, and I was like,
yes.
yeah, like yeah, and they did it.
Water
and it's
is
cool.
wet.
Like I don't
Like
whatever.
that is quite literally their job is to sell packs. So like I don't understand.
Yeah.
This also goes very, very hard with Displacer Kitten, if that's a thing in your like Timeless Kitten. A lot of these prepared spells go hard with Displacer Kitten because they just blink out and then you can prepare themselves again. So
I mean, being able to attack with if this doesn't get removed, then you can attack with it each turn, and then end step flicker it and Ancestral Recall. Then yeah, it's broken.
yeah,
But
you Ancestral Recall twice, the game's over.
yeah, unless
okay.
you draw 6 lands, which can happen.
Which, yeah, if you're Chris and you draw 6 lands with your 2 Ancestral Recalls. I can imagine, how many Ancestral Recalls have you cast in your life, Chris? Because I can imagine, like, the first one you ever cast drew 3 lands, and then you go on the next couple of years talking about how Ancestral Recall is overrated.
Ancestral Recall's not in my Malcolm deck. I think it's banned in Brawl.
It's not craftable in Brawl, I don't think.
Oh, we don't have it. Okay.
Yeah,
Never mind then.
Okay, last blue card I wanted to mention. I'm not going to advocate for playing this card for what it's worth, but man, if this card isn't just a cool tweak, like a cool Magic the Gathering design. Mathemagics, it's XX blue for a sorcery. Target player draws 2 to the X power cards, which this is cool for 2 reasons. First off, come on, like, finding territory like this that has never been done in a 35-year-old game, I think is just really cool. And it works practically in a way that makes total sense too. So, 2 to the 0 power is 1 card. That's pretty bad. Blue to draw 1 card, or, blue to draw 2 cards because 2 to the first power. And then at 4 mana, it's 2 to the second. So you draw 4 cards. So it kind of like hits the knobs that you would assume: 2 mana, draw 2, 4 mana, draw 2, sorry. It's 2 mana, draw 2, right? 2 to the first power. Yeah. Okay. What I think is really cool about this card is that it's also like, if you're into playing 4 mana draw 2s, which this is essentially a 4 mana draw 2. Those have dropped off a long time ago. This is also your win con. Like, this is a win con with a lot of mana, because for X's like 6, you make your opponent draw 32 cards and they die. Like, the game is over. So it's like, it's an exorbitant amount of mana. But I like the idea of, like, my cantrip is also my 4 mana draw 2, is also my win condition, is all compartmentalized in a single card spot. So if you're like if you somehow still make hard control work in like this really long game hard control work, like, this ends up being your 4 mana draw 2 and your win con in 1 card, which I think is really neat. And I just think the design of using the exponent here without being like too cheeky, like, this isn't a super cheeky design. It just works within the confines of Magic. I think it's cool. It's like the Sokka's haiku, like, cool, or the Shadowfax cool.
Out here trying to get 12 mana to cast our card to make them draw 32 cards.
12 mana. Yeah, but your 4 mana draw 2 also has kicker of 8 mana win the game. I think that's pretty cool.
If this were an instant, maybe, but like, I'm just not.
Yeah, it's a sorcery. I don't know if I mentioned that. Cool. No, I'm not even asking to play the card. I just think it's
it's not. It's noteworthy. It's noteworthy.
Yeah.
I think that I agree with everything you just said about the concept being cool. I don't understand why they thought this was too powerful to make an instant, because it's really below rate unless you're spending 8 mana on it. Like if you're spending 2 mana on it or you're spending 4 mana on it, it's just bad.
Yes, yeah,
It's just objectively bad. Like you have to be sinking shitloads of. And now, granted, like we've talked about this before with modal cards, like cubers tend to go nuts for modal cards instinctively, and I think that is the risk of sounding arrogant, partially a function of the fact that we don't get nearly as many reps with their cubes as we do, so they're like cube axioms that they don't run up against enough to realize are like probably shouldn't be like axioms about cube. But the fact that you have to put 8 mana into this for it to be a really good rate kind of puts me off it. I think they could have easily printed this an instant, and I don't think that would have been broken.
We wouldn't play this as an instant either. Like,
but it would at least be more interesting to talk about.
Yeah,
I think it'd be more interesting. Yeah,
I think it's actually. I mean, going back to selling packs, they would have sold more packs with this being an instant than a sorcery. But I think it's actually smart to make this a sorcery because then it doesn't field out all the other blue X spells that you would play in like Commander, for example. Because then it's just like, oh, I'll upgrade every single blue X draw spell to this, and suddenly I have a win condition in my deck as well for every single deck that would want to play one of those. So
and that makes sense.
I get it.
But like compare this to something like the X mana Wan Shu Tong. Like back when we like years ago now, I mean maybe what was it 2 years ago when we did that episode about how blue sucked on Arena?
It was a while ago now.
It was a while ago now. One of the biggest things that we hit on repeatedly was that every other color was getting card advantage attached to board presence, and blue was stuck on just pure card advantage. I think this falls into the trap of like,
oh yeah,
even blue doesn't need just pure card advantage anymore. Blue wants card advantage that comes attached to something that impacts the board. I think the time for a design like this is past. But to your point, Tim, the exponent thing, I think this is the first time we've ever seen this on a card, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And it's almost a throwaway card on power level outside of Commander, and I'm okay with it because, you know, like, what are you doing with Magic Design 35 years in if not making cards like this? Use one card in the slot to make cards like this, and I think it's a slam dunk. And somebody will find a use for it. So, very cool. I had to mention. Could not skip that one. That brings us to black, which unfortunately black being half focused on Witherbloom and half focused on Silver Quill with the life gain and the targeting of instants and sorceries gets scrapped for some of its best cards in Cube. There's just so much like life gain matter stuff that doesn't make sense to talk about here. The first card up is the Emeritus. It's Emeritus of Woe. This is 3 and a black for a 5/4 Vampire Warlock. It enters prepared. At the beginning of your end step, if 2 or more creatures died this turn, it becomes prepared again, and the spell is Demonic Tutor. 1 in a black, search your library for any card, put it in your hand. I almost think about this as a 6-drop, right? 6 mana, 5/4 Demonic Tutor.
Yeah,
obviously it's broken down a little bit differently than that.
So, I mean, compared to the white one, this one is not giving us ETB value at a higher mana cost with a weaker spell. At least for, like, when I say weaker spell, I mean at our power level. I think I would rather have Swords to Plowshares than Demonic Tutor in, like, our fair environment. But,
I mean, Demonic...
I don't know how many cards are worth adding Kicker 1 in a black to...
Swords is better than Demonic Tutor. I'll give you... Like, I think it's better than Demonic Tutor, but, like, they're in the same tier, I think.
I mean, I
don't think they're that far off.
I think
it's cool.
Really
I don't know.
It's
I don't
really
know if it's good. I wanted to talk about it. You know,
this card looks terrible to me, but like it does seem really cool.
Black Forest.
I'm sorry,
Black is extremely questionable.
I mean, legitimately ask yourself, like, if you have the opportunity to draft this Elegy Acolyte or Hostile Investigator, are you going to lie to me and tell me that this isn't third on that list?
I think that's right, but
I wouldn't take it over Elegy Acolyte. I think depending on the texture of my deck, I might take it over Investigator.
I think that's insane, but okay.
I think Investigator is in general a better card, but I think that if my deck is doing a particular thing, that, I mean, in a deck that cares about like creatures dying, being sacrificed, whatever, you can probably prepare it a second time at least once. And those type of decks function over having the right combination of cards that do the thing and cards that pay you for doing the thing. I mean, obviously, like if you're at a power level where like you're playing Shieldred and no one's whining, then like there's no reason to like look at this twice. Um, I think it's testable. If neither one of you guys agree with that, like I'm not going to go to war over it, but I think it's interesting at least. Elegy Acolyte is better for the type of deck that wants this card, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Teld, that this is like third behind those cards just generally.
Yeah.
I don't think that makes this card horrendous, that you're comparing it to absolutely insane black 4-drops.
Sure. I just mean when you're at our power level, like I think this card's cool. And if you want to play it at a lower power level, I think that could be a space. But I just think once you're at this power level, the cards at 4 mana, they got to do the thing when you play them. Like they can't be like not doing. If they're going to not do something the turn you play it has to be Shoulder the Apocalypse, where if like I untap with this, I'm probably going to win the game.
Yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, you're probably right about that. Like, I mean,
and maybe you win the game when you untap with the Demonic Tutor. That could be the case. Like, I just am struggling because let's say we have 5 mana, right? On turn 5, we play this on turn 4. We untap, we get our turn 5. What are we Demonic Tutoring for that is worth kicking? That is worth paying an extra 2 mana for? That's going to like turn the corner and make our risky 4-drop worth it.
I mean, there's a world where
I think
you
it
just
depends, right?
chain
it
together.
It could be a Gene Blade. It could be a Blood Artist. It could be.
That just seems so anemic. Like, why not just play something that draws cards or something that like does anything?
Well, because that's, I mean, they're with the right structure of deck, like this draws you an interactive piece every turn of the game. So
I guess, but like unless I can go get Meat Hook Massacre or something, I don't know. I'm not sold.
Can we bring back
I don't.
Meat Hook, by the way?
Probably.
Can we? No, I'm not kidding. Can we please bring back?
I don't know
Meat
about
Hook
that one
Massacre?
yet. Maybe.
All right, we brought back Fable.
Yeah, so that's
Fuck, if I
that's
knew
exactly
every time
why I
I
want
was
to put
casting
this.
maybe I was getting Meat Hook Massacre, maybe. But even then, like that's Meat Hook for 1. Like that's not even that good unless I'm getting.
Well, it's exactly why I wanted to put this emeritus on this stock, is to talk about it, because like it's not like Demonic Tutor's great card. It's like but it's not always Demonic Tutor, and I think it is. I think you are right to call out that this is almost certainly worse than Elegy Acolyte, and probably worse than Hostile Investigator, like a majority of the time. But for us, we've always had like this extra black 4-drop slot that's just been filled in by either Shieldred or crap. And it's like, okay, maybe this is the third tier black 4-drop.
I don't think that the Board Wipe Dragon was a bad card.
Oh no, that card's fine too. That's
more of a board density thing than anything.
This gets the cool test for me.
I don't think that the Vampire King, whatever the fuck his name is, I don't think that's a bad card. I just think it unfairly punishes aggro and doesn't do shit against
Kalitas.
Control, but I don't
Sure.
I don't think Kalitas is bad.
Yeah, so
I don't think Kalitas is bad.
I was thinking the mid 4 mana Sorin.
No, which we finally cut, right? Like we're not playing that shit anymore.
I mean, I'll push back on this card being like horrendous or anything, because like your creature just doesn't always die.
Here's going to be a really easy sell for Teld, is we could just cut Stalactite Stalker to test it. And maybe it's good, and maybe it's not.
All I'm saying is, like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I see this in a pack and my eyes light up or something. But I feel like when I look at this card, and if we put it in the cube, that's cool. But you guys are going to have to draft the cube and play it, because I'm not drafting this.
Okay, a couple more black cards. Tragedy Feaster. I think that's a really dumb name, personally, but whatever. Tragedy Feaster is 2 black for a 7/6 trample demon. Ward, discard a card, and it has infusion at the beginning of your end step. Sacrifice a permanent unless you gained life this turn. So not really a life gain card so much as one of those like rotting Regisaur downside cards. But if you do have incidental life gain, you don't have a downside to it at all.
I mean, it's huge.
It's not a Gonosaurus Rex huge, but it's big.
It's big, and it has a real ward cost on it.
Yeah, the ward cost is really the only thing carrying here, because like if you don't have the ward cost, I'd rather have Archfiend to the Dross like 90% of the time. Speaking of 4-drops, speaking of good 4-drops that we're not playing, Archfiend of the Dross is a heater.
Do you want to try it?
I don't know, maybe.
Is it that's the Phyrexian?
Yeah, the Phyrexian 6/6 flyer that also like deals your opponent 2 damage every time something dies.
Yeah, but you die.
Never
you die in 3 turns or whatever.
Yeah, just kill him before that.
You die in.
All right. Well.
Yeah.
Let's not chat about that one too much here.
Okay,
Second number call, Zealot. You're good.
This is another one that I was like, okay, the numbers are here. It's not.
Would
like
this have been too crazy if the word cost was discard 2 cards? Would that have been too much?
Yeah, you don't want to print that word, because once you get into discard 2 cards, you're just not able to actually ever target it. Like that's way too much to. Like if this was like a 4/4 instead of a 7/6 maybe, but you can't push the stats and also the ward cost at the same time. Like that's just bad design. I think.
I think that this is like a reasonable test, depending on what your cube is doing. I would rather test the demonic tutor card, probably.
Emeritus. Yeah.
It is worth noting that you can sacrifice any permanent type. So if you draw this like later in the game, if you draw it later in the game, then like the fact that it's cheap kind of doesn't matter. But you can stack excess lands, artifacts. If you have, like,
or
Lord Skitaru, Jadar.
Exactly. But at that point,
know.
it's like, is this the type of payoff you want in the decks that have a Bitter Blossom or a Jadar or whatever? I don't think so. Like, it's filtering basically the token making into like giant beat stick hits. You know, I do agree if this card didn't have Ward, I wouldn't care. But Ward, I think, is enough to tie the whole package together and be like, you're gonna have to deal with this thing. It's gonna kill you in 3 turns if you don't. So, yeah, I'm not like inspired by it. I'm not even gonna necessarily push to test it. I would rather test Demonic Tutor Emeritus as well. But again, due diligence, can't skip over cards like this. I think with this type of thing, we come back like 2 weeks after the set drops and it's like, oh, Tragedy Feaster is insane in standard. Should we try that out? You know.
Yeah, we could miss on this one. My gut is that what's going to happen in a lot of situations is that you're going to sacrifice a permanent, and then your opponent's going to remove it. But to your point, though, like the word discard a card, that is a real cost, right?
Yeah. Worth noting if you are playing Steel and Sack, which doesn't really show up much, but if you are playing Steel and Sack, this does sack on end step. You can Steel sack the opponent's creature to keep it around, which sounds like a beating. You're getting smashed if that's what's happening.
This might sound crazy, but I feel like if they had printed Ward 2 mana and discard a card.
Stop pushing ward costs. Like... Stop pushing ward costs, Chris.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. But I feel like this.
Why do you want the ward cost on a 7/6 trampler to be bigger than like already 2 for 1 in yourself to get rid of it?
because I have to eat something every single turn.
Sure.
That I could be feeding to something else.
Or gain life every single turn. Or gain life. I mean, like if you think constructed, standard, limited, whatever, like the design of this card is to work with all the stupid pests and stuff that gain life, so you might not actually be losing too much to that. This thing's gonna slap you in limited, I assume.
Probably.
Okay, Chris, you went blank there again, but do you want to touch on Rel here? Seemed like you wanted to touch on
Teld put this in the chat. Okay, so this Planeswalker is Ralzeric Guest Lecturer. 1 black for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. The +1 is Surveil 2. The -1 is any number of target players each discard a card, which is obviously going to be more powerful in multiplayer. -2 on Earth, and then -7. I'm not even going to read that because it says the word coins, and I hate that. And it won't ever matter. This seems like fine value if you have black decks where putting cards into your graveyard has similar value to drawing cards. In the event that you don't, that's obviously worse than drawing cards. It's a lot worse than just drawing cards. I think this is a fine value package. It's kind of interesting. I feel like they went in a direction where they were making Planeswalkers more flavorful for a while, and the Planeswalkers in this set feel kind of a return to a more generic design space. I don't know if either one of you guys disagree with that.
They're both four loyalty Planeswalkers that just have the most like they're just fine effects, you know. There's nothing.
Also,
super
why
inspiring.
why is Ral black?
Do you really want to know?
Yeah, because Jace broke reality or something.
We'll find out in the next set, but we're gonna get a set coming up
Magic
here.
Sucks so bad.
We're gonna get a set here with a lot of reverse Planeswalkers is the thing. White Lily.
Okay, so Jace,
Blue Chandra and stuff like that. So
had Gorgon babies and broke reality or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, and
whatever.
The Gorgon baby is in this set, by the way.
Awesome. So cool.
Yeah. So
all right, it just felt worth mentioning. Like, if feeding your graveyard is powerful in your black decks, then this does that, and it also leverages your graveyard and has discard on it. It seems reasonable if you can leverage the +1 If you can't, then it's probably just fine.
Yeah, totally agree. It's not an inspiring call, I don't think. Inspiring planeswalker design, really, but it
I mean,
seems
when you
fine.
compare this to something like Preacher of the Schism that's just rad in every situation, then it's like, why would you make room for this? But
Sure. I mean, even Liliana of the Veil, I'm like, is Lily this is missing a critical like creature removal mode for a black planeswalker, I think.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, Lily of the Veil, I think in Contemporary Magic sucks really bad.
It does.
They could have just printed like a power creeped Lily of the Veil, and I'm not convinced that that's what this is, but it is a Planeswalker card in an era where they're printing fewer Planeswalkers, so I thought it might be worth mentioning at least.
Yeah, good shout out. The last black card here is Sorcery, End of the Hunt. It's 1 in a black. Target opponent exiles a creature or planeswalker they control with the greatest mana value among those cards. You guys are known Shieldrick Edict haters.
Isn't this just blot out for 1 less mana?
Yeah.
Does it can't blot out get planeswalkers? Is that the other?
Yeah, I think so. Let me look it
Oh
up,
wait, this
but
gets
I'm pretty
planeswalkers too.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I'm pretty
This
sure
is
it's
just
Not instant.
Yeah,
blot out.
dude, this is.
Yeah, it's better.
Oh, it's a sorcery. Okay, but regardless, like I think shaving a mana off of it versus the timing, it's not strictly better blot out.
This
but
is
it's
mostly
basically-
Shoulders Edict that always gets its guy. Because, like, in Peasant, I'm not super into this, because a lot of times in Peasant, the most expensive card isn't necessarily the best card in play, but usually in the mainline cube, if we're running a card that costs 4 mana or more, then it's the most threatening card on the table.
Is that because like in Peasant you have like 5 mana cards that are like 1/1s that made like 2/3/3s and shit like that? Like
Sort of,
sometimes
yeah. It's,
the actual
there's
card-
like, Peasant's a lot more about, like, engines and tokens and things like that, so, like,
You have
sometimes
the Marionette Apprentice is the creature you really need to kill, but your opponent has like multiple 2-drops or a 3-drop or whatever, and you can't kill it.
Okay, well, I was going to go on the warpath that we should replace Shieldred's Edict with literally any Doomblade variant, but I think it's probably just going to be this as a test, right? I mean, this
Easy.
is solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Blot Out felt like a card that needed to be power crept anyway, so.
Correct.
Blot Out was a power crept version of another card at one point. There was a sorcery that cost 3 mana that did the same thing, and then Blot Out came out as a uncommon instant version or whatever. But
The other thing I like about this is like Blot Out consistently felt like a card that you kind of wanted to cut from your deck, but in the situations where Blot Out like solved the problem that you wanted it to solve, it was like the only card in your deck that would solve the problem that you wanted it to solve, and this just feels like a better version. I mean, at least for like proactive decks, right? Because like proactive decks, ideally what you're doing is like you're dumping your mana every turn on trying to kill your opponent. So like a lot of the time in proactive black decks, even your instant speed removal, and obviously this isn't always the situation, like that instant speed flexibility is always important, but a lot of proactive black decks are spending their removal spells on their own turn to clear the way to punch in some damage. And it also doesn't feel like reactive black decks that are like supporting blue in a controlling space are hurting for options or cards.
no.
I think this is nice. I think this is worth testing.
Yeah, I would like to see these edicts be pumped up a little bit more, and this feels like it hits a good spot for them.
Make a 1/1 pest token.
Red, sure. I mean,
Sure, why not?
Red only has one like notable card that I pulled out, but it has my pick for possibly the best card in the set for Cube. It's a Emeritus of Conflict. It's 1 in a red for a 2/2 first striker. When you cast your third spell, oh no, God,
it doesn't come in
It doesn't
prepared.
never mind.
prepared.
Never mind.
I,
God, I
the
did
second
same
you said this is
damn
the best
thing
card in the
I knew
set,
you
I was
misread
like,
the card.
you either
Okay,
didn't
never
read
mind.
it or
Never
you
mind.
recently started smoking crack.
Both those could be true, but never mind. This isn't even really that good.
This card's bad. This card's really bad.
Yeah, this is more like a-
Let me take it back. It's not really bad, but this card is worse than
Can you-
the 2/2 first striker that shits out 5/5.
Can you imagine the world though where this
Just came in
entered prepared
prepared,
and
it
then
was
it
like-
prepared itself
a
again?
Yeah,
2/2 first striker that came in with lightning bolt? Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
imagine.
Oh,
that.
I was
It
so
would be
excited
one
for
of the best
this.
red creatures
You
ever
guys
printed.
suck.
Third spell's not trivial. Like, all right, let's talk about it anyways. Let's talk about it anyways, because like if you can get to the third spell, it does help chain itself into future spells.
It does.
It-
My head was at you cast this, you cast the lightning bolt, you cast another 1-drop on like turn 4, and then you
Sure.
have the lightning bolt on reserve. But like then it becomes like you're doing the Arclight Phoenix thing that you get to do maybe once a game, and is the payoff really worth it? For this, it's fine. It's 2/2 first strike. It's not an embarrassing creature. Lightning bolt's a good card, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I was so excited about this one.
I do want to shout out that,
itself.
like, maybe I don't
Sorry,
really play
bud.
a lot of it, but I could see this being like a card that shows up in Powered Cube, where you can go something like this into like a Mox into a spell and then
Sure.
prepare it. Because like Lightning Bolt's really strong. This is if you can do like if you can rattle if your cube if the decks in your cube can rattle off a bunch of cheap spells, you're playing like the 10 1-drop mono red type decks. I could see there's a world where I could see this, but I think you need some pretty specific conditions, and probably fast mana is like something you're looking for to make
Even
this work.
still, like I feel like in a cube where your cube isn't loaded with like get probes and moxes and shit like that, like
Lava Dart.
this literally has one
Oh
single
man, Lava Dart
home,
would have been so
and then
sick.
yeah,
I'm so
or Lava
sad.
Dart, or even like maybe Fire Blast. But
I was so stoked for this. I was stoked for the Brainstorm Merfolk. This set sucks, man. This set's garbage.
for our cube design, and if you are designing like a powerful but fair style of cube, like this doesn't play anywhere that's not and is a deck where you have like Ponder, Preordain, Consider in your deck.
Yeah.
All right. Well, not much of a red set for us then, unfortunately. The other red card, for what it's worth, is Impractical.
That's okay.
Joke.
Red's fine.
Yeah, red's doing okay. It doesn't need it. We got a Strangle upgrade here. It's barely a Strangle upgrade. It's red for a sorcery. Damage can't be prevented this turn, and it deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Basically,
Can you
just
replace
Strangle.
Galvanic Blast with this?
I mean, the only reason I think you care about that text is if you're playing with protection creatures or you're playing with the One Ring or whatever. This can shut off protection for the turn. Other than that, it's Strangle. It basically doesn't have additional text in a lot of applications. So whatever. So sad about red. Whatever. Green has a bunch of bangers to maybe pick me up here a little bit.
Ooh, a green 1-drop creature we're talking about. Let's read it.
It's a Pelt Collector. So Ambitious Augmenter is the first green card. It's a single green mana for a 1/1 with increment. So remember, it's a 1/1. So if you cast anything that costs 2 mana or more, you'll get a +1 counter, and then 3 mana or more, give it another +1 counter. When this creature dies, if it had 1 or more counters on it, you create a 0/0 blue-green fractal token and then put this creature's counters on that token. So this is one of those Pelt Collector Experiment 1 style cards where you have to scale the amount of mana that you're spending on spells, and this will get bigger, and then it dies into essentially a smaller creature, like the same size creature -1/-1 because it doesn't have the base stats. So
Isn't this
turn
just
1.
the best Pelt Collector? Isn't this just the best version of this effect ever printed?
If it's a little different to be cast in like a 3 mana into 4 mana into 5 mana spell than a 3 power into 4 power into 5 power creature, right? And maybe
It's
the
easier.
mana cost is easy. Yeah, it might be easier. It's definitely going to be a 2/2 or 3/3 in majority of games, I think. And then it dies into another creature rather than Pelt Collect. Do those things die into anything? I don't think so.
No, the literal experiment cards don't die into anything, and then like Pelt Collector grows on.
It gets
think
trample is once it hits a number. That's
yes,
the
and
bonus.
it's either like cast or death. Like if something bigger than Pelt Collector dies, I think it grows. But I mean, in terms of the persistence of the value that you generated by doing the thing, I think this is the best.
Yeah.
This is the best one.
And this is
I mean,
probably better. Is this better off the top because you're more likely to draw, like it triggers off of more things than just creatures, so you're more likely to like get it going.
certainly plays better in blue decks.
Doesn't work
than-
as well with like play this and then plus a planeswalker to make like a token. That doesn't work quite as well. But this is a potent 1-drop play, right? It's going to be a 3/3 that dies into a 2/2 at some point. And then if you can put additional counters on it with like a Ornery Tumblewag or Bristly Bill or whatever, you could just grow it that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's
That's
definitely
true.
worse than like the non-dork 1-drop or the dork 1-drops, excuse me. But we've kind of intentionally limited access to those because the 1-drop dorks just lead to so many game wins so easily. So like, this is testable.
And it's not even bad alongside those because they pump out bigger spells easier. So
My gut is that this is the best version of this style of effect that we've yet seen, especially considering that there were so many white cards and green cards these days that just put counters on things.
I think so.
Yeah, like, are we still playing Quarian Beastcaller? If we're not, I'm going to be really sad. No, we cut it. No,
I
we
think
are. We are still
yeah,
playing it.
we're on it.
Like,
Teld is on a warpath to
no,
cut it, but
Card
Teld
sucks.
hates it. Over my dead body. Will we cut this card?
But this card is way better than that card.
I agree. This
that
is
may be
probably
so.
better than that, but
I mean,
anyway,
we've got Mutagen Man. We've got Mutagen Man. We've got Ornery Tumblewag. Beastcaller, Paw Patch.
there's always been an aggressive green
Doomscar.
build that we've like pushed back on a little bit, because we just don't need every color to be an aggro color. But the tools are there, and I do agree this is probably the best version of this like growing 1/1 that we've got. I mean, it dies into another creature. You know, the other ones don't die into other creatures. So.
And that's just the green shit that does that. We've got a bunch of white shit that does that also. I don't know. I think this seems cool. I think this is the test for. Okay, so in my perspective, from my perspective, this is always the test with green 1-drops. Is it a dork? No. Okay, it's immediately worse than the dorks because green dorks are just the best. You're never going to design a better green 1-drop than a dork. It's just not going to happen. Then the second question is, like, do you have a green aggro build? If you don't, and it's dependent on an aggressive curve out, then depending on your cube design, it might not be worthwhile. Then the tertiary consideration is it a 1-drop that you can draw later that has sufficient board impact to be worth including in your deck? And these grow creatures tend to be what that green 1-drop looks like that's not a dork. And a lot of them are creature dependent, which makes them awkward in Simic decks on occasion. Are they sticky? Sometimes they're not. Most of the time they're not. My guess is that this is probably the best version of the spec that we've yet seen. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think so. And again, there's a lot of incidental +1/+1 counter stuff in green that grows this once you're not like incrementing it anymore. Plus, X spells can get you that extra little increment trigger once this is already big. I think this card's pretty cool. It's a good 1-drop.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really fit a lot of flavors of our green decks, but I think like it's the type of card, that can definitely start paving like a new direction for some green decks. So cool one. I think we should try that one out. Environmental Scientist is up next. This is one Teld you wanted to add here. This is going to be a peasant banger, spoiler alert for high power level cube. I don't know if it gets there, but Simplicity is nice here. It's 2 mana, 1 in a green for a 2/2, and when it enters, you search your library for a basic and put it into your hand, which is the best rate that I think we've gotten at Peasant. I cannot think of another 2 mana creature that does exactly this without some sort of like weird stipulation on it or a worse stat line.
Yeah, I suspect this is going to be worse than a dork most of the time, like virtually all of the time, in fact. But like, it does tutor up a land, which is cool. The kind of spot we've had in the cube for a while is Whatley, and I think this does not, like, even though Whatley costs more mana, just way more powerful card. The activation on that's really powerful to make some raptors, and occasionally you could get to tutor a good dinosaur.
Fenrir or whatever. Yeah, the 3 mana cards that do this have like so much more power put into them, obviously. But I see this almost as like pumped up Elvish Visionary if people are on that, right? Like it's a 2 mana 2/2 cantrip creature instead of a 1 mana 1/1 cantrip creature, just so he draws a basic.
Yeah, and in general, just ramp is more powerful in the mainline environment. The big spells just take over games in a way that they don't in Peasant. So in Peasant, you tend to want your cards to generate long-term value, so pulling out lands out of your deck, making your land drops consistently, improving your draw quality, that sort of thing. Which I know people are adamant about how deck thinning does not matter, but I will still go on record that like it's better than not doing it. So you can, especially in limited where everything is like double, you're 50% better, right? In 60 card formats, thinning your deck by 1 card is not nearly as effective as it is in 40. Not that that's something you should be considering necessarily, but if you do it 2 or 3 times, you play a couple of landscapes, you play this, whatever, like you are talking about a substantial portion of your deck you've thinned out. So I think in Peasant, this makes a lot of sense. In the main line, not as much.
I was going to say that. Thinning matters more once you've done it 2 or more additional times. The first one is almost inconsequential, like 2.5% difference between your lands or whatever. So this is like kind of a boring card, but if you're into like cantrip creatures and mana fix and multicolor piles, landfall, whatever, it fits a lot of knobs. It's like best in class for this, it is sitting next to 2-mana dorks that do quite a bit, and 2-mana powerhouse cards like Bristly Bill and stuff like that. So, not sure for mainline. We'll talk about it again for Peasant. I want you guys to. Am I misreading this card? I've read this card like 15 times last night, and
this
I'm
is
not
a
sure.
Slumbering Fairy or whatever, but you can pay.
But it's huge.
But
yeah.
it's huge, yeah.
So Slumber and Trudge is X green for a 6/6. It enters with a number of stun counters on it equal to 3 minus X. If it entered with a stun counter on it, tap it. So the idea being here, you pay X is 3, or even X is 3, right? And it comes down as a 6/6. But you can just pay X is 0, have this come down on turn 1 as a 6/6, and it'll just untap 3 turns later, right? Like, is that not just amazing? You invested 1 mana in a 6/6 that comes down, and it taps itself right away, so it really only comes in with 2 stun counters.
So two
I think
things
if
about
they had
this.
slapped trample on this, it would be crazy.
It would be.
It'd be insane with trample.
2 things about this, and I guess they're actually the same thing. But the playing this on turn 1 and getting a 6/6 into play is actually really incredible because there's a ton of cards that rely on power that are kind of sketchy. Like even and not even like the 4 power matters type cards are probably what jumped to mind. But
Like
even
fight
like
rigging.
fights, even like fight spells and fight rigging and things like that get a lot more consistent when you're able to have a very cheap card we can play early into the game that enables all these things, right? Like
Great hench.
Great Henge is a great example.
What is this? Like a turn? What is this? A turn 2 Great Henge?
What?
What in the world?
Yeah, it's literally a turn 2. It's literally a turn 2 great hench.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so I think like the low-key most powerful thing about this is that Green cares a lot about having power in play if you're playing with the cards that do that, and some of them are incredibly powerful. Yeah, I mean...
So just to game it out, turn 1, X is 0, comes in with 3 counters, taps itself right away, so removes the counter. Turn 2 doesn't untap, turn 3 doesn't untap. Turn 4, it's untapped, right?
No, right?
Because it removes 1 counter immediately.
Dude, you're right. It doesn't enter tapped. It taps itself on ETB if it has a stun counter, which removes the stun counter. So it's faster than I even.
Oh wait, does it?
Yeah,
wait, it removes the stun counter.
It taps itself when it enters. If it entered with a, so it technically removes the first tap stun counter from itself.
If you
right?
play it on turn 1, it enters with 3 stun counters, but it enters untapped, triggers, and then removes the stun.
No, that's not how stun counters work, guys. Stun counters, if it attempts to untap, it removes the stun counter.
If it becomes untapped.
No, you're right.
Okay.
You're right. You're
so
right.
turn 1.
Right.
So
It's
it
like
comes
turn
online
5.
turn 5. But if you draw
Regardless.
but it's not like a ridiculous top deck because if you can pay 4 mana, just have it be a 6/6.
Yeah, which
without
comparatively
the
the
stun
fairy,
counters.
like if you drew it later, you had to pay like 7 mana. Also, 6/6 is like really big because the fairy's advantage was that it was a cheap tempo flyer and you could get it online and start attacking. This is just a big blocker.
It gets fatal pushed, but it dodges 6/6 is like red removal starts to deal with 5 drop or 5 toughness creatures now. It's not good at dealing with 6 toughness creatures.
I think this is good.
Seems gnarly to me. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have trample, but
if you
herd
think about
arrowing
it,
this
like,
thing or something like.
It's
you know what
4
too?
mana.
This is kind of cute. We can use the that 3-drop, the cards from LCI that we can pay a mana to untap a permanent. We can remove.
Yeah, if you can untap it, you get it online even quicker. Like,
Well, there's that, and then if you're playing whatever that green creature is that adds, like Sylvala, like it adds an amount of mana equal to
the power.
greatest.
Yeah.
This is
power
that's what we were
and
mentioning,
creature
like
control.
horrific assault and all that sort of stuff. The cards that care about
Yeah,
power.
no, that's true. All the fight spells, like even if this isn't ready to rock and roll in combat, like this is a fantastic target for your 1 mana fight spells. I think this card's very strong.
Like a 4 mana 6/6 that you could suspend on turn 1. Is how I'm thinking about this. That seems, I don't know, that seems strong. Like if it was just literally vanilla 4 mana 6/6, I don't think I would care that much. We've seen 4 mana 6/5s and stuff like that, but the fact that you can offload it early on turn 1 for a single mana and then start bashing on turn 5 with all your other stuff, all your mana up, that seems.
This turns your repulsive mutation on turn 2 too. I can talk about power things that matter.
Repulsive, yep, repulsive. It works for that.
Okay, I like this.
Anything,
I think we're not on a ton of the cards that really work with this, but I think the things that it does are all pretty reasonable. On top of being like it's not like 4 mana 6/6 is not an exciting top deck, but the fact that you can just do that is is pretty fine.
Even you could even filter more than 4 mana into it if you want to trigger increment or something.
What's going to be very, very funny is when you play this early into the game as a tapped creature, and then your opponent hits you in the face with a bloated contaminator and puts more stun counters
starts
on
proliferating it. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It's funny that it died, this gigantic like Venusaur dies to Fatal Push too. It's just like push it over, it's dead.
I mean that's every Hydra, right? But
true.
I think this is sick. I think this is sick, especially. I mean, we've already covered it extensively, so I won't repeat everything that we just said. But the fact that like green has a variety of effects and spells that can leverage it before it's even ready to go.
It gets under counter spells too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you had me
true.
at turn 2 Great Henge is just like, come on, man.
Yeah,
Turn
we're
2 Great
not
Henge
we're
is
not on
nuts.
Grey Hinge at the moment, but yeah, if you're playing that card, the fact that you can get a turn 2 Grey Hinge is incredible. That's ridiculous.
But yeah, I mean, if you're on the play, I mean, green. What's green's natural predator? It's blue, generally speaking. Like the fact that you can turn 1 this if you're on the play, and like unless you're playing like free counter magic, like
yeah. Which I guess it's
Force
like
whatever.
a little soft bounce spells or something, but like you can always just replay it again as a 4 mana 6/6, you know. So, okay, next card. This is one of the this one I just wanted to mostly mention because I like the design of the card. There's 2 cards in this set like this. One of them's red.
Oh, this is cool.
Wild Growth Archaic. So it costs both mana symbols are hybrid green or 2 mana. So you could pay green, you could pay 2 green, or you could pay 4 color, generic mana. It's a 0/0 with reach and trample, and it enters with a +1 counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. So if you cast it for green, it's a 2 mana 1/1, which is pretty bad. But if on turn 3, if you pay green plus an additional color, like green, red, it's going to be a 2/2, and you could theoretically go like green, blue, red or something in a teamer deck and have this be a 3/3, and then on 4 mana you could theoretically even have 4 colors of mana to cast it. It says whenever you cast a creature spell, that creature enters with X additional +1 counters on it, where X is the number of colors of mana spent to cast it. And that doesn't matter. However big this thing is, it doesn't matter. That effect applies to all creature spells you cast. So every creature you cast that isn't straight up colorless is going to enter with at least +1/+1 counter on it. And if it was like a multicolor card, it'll enter with additional counters on it.
I have been misreading this card because I kept reading it as it gets +1 counters equal to the number of counters on this, and that's not what
that's how it feels like it should work, but it's not. It's just you pay theoretically. I think you pay green. You put this into play as a 1/1, and then every creature you play comes in with an additional +1/+1 counter. Your gold creatures come in with more.
So like the idea, the plan here is to play a turn 1 dork that produces like a hierarch or a Birds of Paradise, and then on turn 2 we play a 3/3 that gives us counters on our dudes. That's okay.
Yeah, you want this to be a 3 mana 3/3 if you can.
I do. I have a question. I have a rules question.
Yeah.
If I can generate green mana, can I still pay one of these units of mana as like a green and a black as opposed to just a singular green? Okay, you just answered it.
You could cast this for no green mana. Actually, you could go white, black. And
No, I'm aware of that. I'm just saying, like, if I can make green mana, do I still have the option?
You could go like green, black.
To pay a green.
Oh yeah. It's your choice. It's hybrid, so you choose how you're going to pay for that pip.
Okay, so if I have like green, blue, if I have green, blue, black, red. Is it going to come in as a 4/4? Is it going to come in as a 3/3?
4/4. You chose to pay.
4/4.
You chose to pay the 4. Basically, when you're casting these spells, it's kind of like when you cast a Phyrexian spell. You choose how the mana is going to line up. I assume the same thing's going to happen here. And so our 4 colors of mana will be picking the two mana, like 2 colors of pips on this.
Okay.
Yeah, this is decent. It feels really convoluted for what it's doing.
Yeah, it's an anthem, right? Like that's basically.
I'm pretty sure Persian will
also
also riot if we don't test this.
I mean,
probably, and we could also include it as a colorless card, could we not?
It would be a 4 mana colorless card that would require you to pay like 3 different colors
like
at
a 4 mana
least
2/2
to make it matter.
Decks, yeah.
Well, you could also
it's almost like a
black if you want.
It's almost like a hybrid.
You could have a 4 mana 1/1, yes, Chris.
Yeah.
Yes, you could.
Because this is like, it's such a weird one because it's basically a green X card, but X can be anything. So it's hybrid. I mean, but you must have. you kind of want green. You don't even need to have green. I don't even know what you run. It is convoluted. It's such a convoluted card, and the red one is like even more convoluted, which is why I didn't add it.
This feels like an early front runner for Chains of Mephistopheles, despite
It's in there for sure. It's a little. Is it good? I don't know. It's annoying that it doesn't work with the stupid devoid creatures. So like Writhen Chrysalis and what is it, Eldrazi Spawn don't get anything from this.
Oh my god! If you can make 3 colors of mana, this is.
Oh wait, no, it's the wait. Oh, hold on. The creatures you cast enter with counters equal to the colors of mana you spent to cast them, not their colors. So
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
If you have enough mana to make this, if you have the mana set up to make this with 3/3 on entry, then you're slapping 3 counters on everything.
No, Chris, you're misreading it again.
We're all misreading it.
So, like, Chris, what it does is if you play it, whenever you play it, once you've got mana to cast your future creatures, let's say you cast it for green on turn 2, and on turn 3 you cast something for red, green, blue, it will enter with 3+1/+1 counters because you cast 3 different colors of mana to cast it. It does not matter. This card's stats don't matter outside of it, the card itself.
Okay, so it does work.
That's what I meant.
This is sick with Aura Void, by the way. You cast this and then cast your Aura Void, make 3, just like.
Yeah. Okay. Counters. So yes. So you play this on, let's say, I imagine turn 3 because it's green. Let's just be safe and say 3. Let's say you're a green-red deck. You're not even splashing, right? So every creature you can theoretically cast using red and green mana from turn 4 onwards. All your creatures will probably enter with 2+1/+1 counters. And if you're able to produce additional colors, like you have a Triome with a third color you don't even plan on using, like a Zeotaurus Proven Ground, you could use that for another color to get an additional +1/+1 counter on whatever you're casting. So this is like a super anthem if it sticks around.
Yes. Actually, you know what? One cube design downside I could prospectively see with this card is that you have a drafter who's just like basically 2 colors.
Snatching. Yeah.
But if their color combination is really open, they just start taking like fixing lands just to increase the value of having this card in their deck.
Like the Gruul player will take a Sacred Foundry because it gives them an extra white source or whatever.
They could, in theory, or they just take they basically just start taking like any fixing land. It's what
Persian's going to do every draft anyways.
Persian, yeah.
I think that we should test this. What a cool design.
It is, and I would recommend checking out the red one too. The problem with that one is it cares about you casting instants and sorceries to get the big payoff off of it, but it has this same kind of hybrid setup. Yeah, I'm glad I added this actually because I didn't quite understand. It feels like one of those Master Biomancer cards where it should check your creatures enter with counters equal to what this has, but it's completely independent of how you cast this.
That would actually probably be insane, right? Because then you would cast this for with 3 counters on it, and then every creature you cast for the rest of the game, if it's in play, get 3 counters.
So the way I'm reading this, just to put a bow on it, is like 3 mana 2/2 that makes all your other creatures enter with 2+1/+1 counters. Like in a 2-color deck, it feels like that should be a baseline, and then you can make it even better with treasure or whatever. Off-color splashing. So, let's test this one and see if other people understand how it works. All right, let's keep it going, though. A couple more green cards. Two banger 3-drops here. So the first one is Vastlands Scavenger. It's 1 green.
Green really got some designs, huh?
Green's killing it here. 3 mana 4/4 Death Touch that enters prepared. It's a bear druid. Bind to Life is its prepared spell for 4 and a green. It's an instant. Mill 7 cards. Put a creature from among them onto the battlefield.
This is a big boy.
Good.
I believe the kids say this fucks.
It's also like when creatures this large have Death Touch and not Trample. I think a lot of people kind of poo-poo Death Touch as being an irrelevant keyword, but it's really not.
Makes it very difficult to double block this.
That's an instant?
Well, yeah.
It's an instant? That's cute. Oh, that's adorable.
It's also an instant. But yeah, I mean, like,
why is that an instant?
It's not that infrequent of a situation where you want to attack with your 4/4, but your opponent has something with 2 toughness and something with 3 toughness.
Yeah.
right? And then like you're gonna trade down. Like I think I would prefer that this had trample to death touch, but the death touch is not irrelevant.
Well,
Like Questing Beast has taught us that over the years.
did you know there are multiple cards in the Jank Diver Gaming Cube that can give this trample? You can use Herd Heirloom or Hunter's Talent. They're already good cards. Just
Here's my turn
rock and
5
roll.
instant speed Titan of Industry. Go to blocks. Like,
Oh man, play this in like the Simic ramp deck that Flutter and Carbon like to play. Flip it.
why is
Wong Chun
that an
Tong to play.
instant? That
This
I
is a
thought
really
I
silly
did. I would
card.
just assume. I know I said it out loud. I just assumed that was a sorcery.
I've
That
read this
seems
card like 3 times and assumed it was a sorcery every single time. This card, wow.
Okay, well,
This card fucks. And if
It
your
is
green
really
decks,
good. Yeah, wow.
if your green decks can leverage the graveyard at all.
ooh-wee, the green 3-drop slot. That's
I feel like every single card we've reviewed in this set has either been, wow, this is an absolute heater, or wow, this card sucks.
Or wow, I didn't read the card. It is annoying to me that like half the cards enter prepared and half don't. Like, can we tweak it and unify that
it's
so
awkward.
everything? I mean, I know they
awkward.
don't have to do that, but
Man,
man,
that
it
blue
really,
one drop.
All right, you want to talk about another good green card?
yeah, green.
Yeah, I don't think we have to say anything else about Vaseline Scavenger. It just seems
so
strong.
obviously good. It is green.
Yeah.
It is green. Whatever.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
but of all of the colors, we
Yeah.
both know that having a high green requirement or having a high
It's a joke.
multicolored.
Yeah. So not
Yeah,
only is
it's-
green easier, but also you get the prepared spell
A lot quicker, yeah.
a turn earlier too.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
7 cards too. Jeez.
Does this
Okay.
have the capacity to re-prepare itself?
This does re-prepare
no.
itself.
No, right?
The bear doesn't. This next card does. The bear just enters
Yep.
prepared and that's it, one shot. So, okay, Emeritus of Abundance, another good 3-drop. This is 2 and a green for a 3/4 elf druid. It has vigilance. It enters prepared, and when it attacks, if you control 8 or more lands, it becomes prepared again, and it has regrowth on it for 1 and a green sorcery. Return a card from your graveyard to your hand. So I'm thinking of this as 5 mana, big Eternal Witness, but again, you can split that up again. 3 mana, 3/4 is rock solid. Regrowth is usually good when you don't have to use a cube or deck slot on regrowth. Man, talk about cube equity with
This
this
could have
set,
been
like-
permanent and I would still be into it, but the fact that you can pick up like Tyvar Stand or Repulsive Mutation off this is pretty gnarly.
Or what about
You can just
Time
fetch
Warp?
lands. You can just
Yeah,
I
was
or Time
gonna.
Warp.
Hadn't got to that part yet. That was what we talked about in the chat. This does create a potential infinite combo with Time Warp, right? Because if you've got 8 mana in play, you Time Warp, you attack with this. If they can't block and kill it that turn, you pick up the Time Warp off the regrowth. You cast the Time Warp. You've got enough lands to do it. You know because it re-prepared itself.
And it's not a saboteur trigger either, so even if they can block and kill it and trade off, you're still going to get your time warp back.
Well,
so.
no, if they can block and trade it off, then you don't get your Time Warp.
Yeah,
back,
you-
right? 'Cause
you-
it's sorcery.
Oh yeah, you're right.
You got to get to main phase 2 with it. That being said,
You're
like
absolutely
green has a lot of ways to do that. Green usually this is going to be a fairly big creature. It's not hard to make it bigger. Additionally, like the re-prepare option is not going to come up a ton. I just want to be clear about that because you're not going to get to 8 lands very often. But do you know what is awesome in a game where you get to 8+ mana is a card that can buy you back some more value and keep grinding. Yeah, regrowth. Regrowth gets really good when you've got that much mana. At that point, it becomes kind of a matter of like, how do I get this through? Like, right? So how do because presumably if we're at 8 lands in play, there's a lot of permanents in play. So like it might be hard to get spots where we can attack with this and have it live. But it's still pretty threatening and like the floor is okay too. Like even if you cast this on turn 3, just a 3/4 vigilance for 3 is not like you can do worse than that. It's not amazing, but like
That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. This card seems really powerful.
Yeah, I think it's good. It has kind of similar vibes to the black one, but I think it's better because it's cheaper.
Yeah, they killed it with this cycle. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I was disappointed by the red one, but this Emeritus cycle is awesome.
Shaving off of mana and putting it in the color that has 1 mana dorks makes this much stronger.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, obviously, Detutor is in a lot of situations better than Regrowth because Regrowth is dependent on what's happened so far in the game, and Detutor is also, but not to the same extent. But I do think this is a better card. Not to mention the fact that like, if you have like a landfall strategy or you're doing like a lands thing, like being able to, once you reach a certain land count, like being able to repeatedly tutor up more lands with your fetch land and add to your land count, and then continuously being able to do that.
Fetchland environments,
this
this gets
feeds-
really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of like this is an example of a design that is like relatively straightforward in its execution, but in the color that the design exists in, can enable numerous different combos, whether you're in blue or you're red or black, or you can just imagine a variety of different applications for this design. It's a very good card.
Oh man, well, another thing you can
And
do with this card that we haven't even talked about, you just mentioned black. How do you feel about unearth this, regrowth the unearth?
that's pretty insane. I mean,
Got him.
that's an yeah, that's great. And 3/4 for 3 with Vig. Like this is the
This is
body
a
of the
Sentinel. This is
universe
Sentinel of
now.
the Nameless City, right? Like in terms of body sizing. I mean, it doesn't like keep bigger, which that card did, which was very silly. But in terms of like, we've seen how
Yeah.
good 3/4 Vigilance is into a lot of the decks in the cube. So
Yes.
sure.
Yep.
Very
Great
cool.
stat
Very
line.
cool.
Very good card.
2 green 3s at the same time is going to be rough on decision making, but we'll figure it out. Tireless Tracker. Time to get rid of Tireless Tracker.
probably, yeah.
Probably Tireless Tracker is just okay.
Germination Practicum. I kind of wanted to just mention a Paradigm card because I think the mechanic is cool, but I also think this is probably the most...
I think this is pretty good.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, so Germination Practicum is 3 green for a lesson. Doesn't matter that it's a lesson unless you're playing learn cards. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. And then Paradigm exiles the spell if it resolves, and you just cast a copy of it for the rest of the game on your first main phase. You just cast a copy of it for free. So this struck me. The reason I put this one on here, the other ones aren't that good for cube. This one struck me as like a more fair Ouroboros if you're searching for that sort of a play pattern of I'm going to grow my board every turn. But if this resolves, you have to kill every creature for the rest of the game if they're not already dead. And if you have a board when you resolve this, you got a little overrun, and then you get another one the next turn, and then if they kill off your board, you get another one the next turn, you get another one the next. Like, you just get 2 counters on everything every turn for the rest of the game. You do have to find the sweet spot of
we should play it.
resolving this, though.
Yeah, I mean it's deeply tempo negative. If you don't have a board, like if you draw this, you've been wrathed, and your opponent has somehow managed to rebuild faster than you, then you're fucked. But I mean, come on, like a 2-mana permanent anthem that stacks. This is going to be a board stall breaker. Like this is going to shatter board stalls. I mean, like look at what is it? Virtue of Loyalty. This is Virtue of Loyalty that can't be removed. And not only is it Virtue of Loyalty that can't be removed, but because it is a cast every single turn, like sure your opponent could burn a counter spell to like counter your free cast, but if they're doing that, they're fucked.
Yeah, you just get another one next turn.
And like it doesn't have like a ton of overlap in green specifically, but with what's the mechanic, the Quandrix mechanic?
Increment.
Yeah, you're casting a 5-mana spell for free every turn.
Yep.
Like that has applications. Seed Shark. Think about this with Seed Shark. Like you're making a 5/5. Am I wrong?
No,
you're making
do.
a 5/5 token.
You cast the card, so it does go on the stack. It does trigger cast triggers.
I mean, this is going to make a 5/5 off of Seed Shark every single turn. I can think of
7/7 if you
numerous
just
synergies.
incubate right away, and I mean, if you have Seed Shark and they don't kill it, and you cast this, they're dead 2 turns later. They're just dead. Like you have you have a 6-power Seed Shark presumably plus a 9-power incubator plus whatever else you had. So it's very easy to see like if this goes unopposed, you are dead. But it's a 5-mana play, which makes it like it's a 5-mana sorcery that requires you have a board state or be able to produce a board state. So it does feel way more fair to me than like Ouroboros turn 3, deal with it now or die on turn 5.
I like this. I think the art is good, and I have a soft spot for green effects that aren't classic in their execution, if that makes any sense.
What do you think, Teld? Sorry, not
yeah.
to cut you off, Chris.
That seems okay.
No, I've been talking.
Seems fine. I don't love cards that just like are all stats, no body, whatever. But if I mean, most of the time I assume this is like between 4/4 and like infinite. And like if it gets, I mean, how many, like if you have like 3 creatures in play, this is pretty good. If you have 4 creatures in play, it's incredible, and then it like just does it again and again every turn. This seems like a banger card.
Selesnya
I was gonna say
is just a
Selesnya.
win con.
Yeah.
No, well, and also not to mention the fact that like one of the things that Defiler of Vigor taught us is that cards that make your dorks combat relevant later and can also be cast faster off the back of your dorks, they have value,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like there arrives a point in the game where your dork has served its purpose and it's like no longer useful. So if like the acceleration that you generated off of it didn't finish the game, then it's just like a piece of shit on board and it doesn't matter. But with something like Germination Practicum, if you can accelerate this out with dorks, and then over the course of a couple of turns, it makes your dorks enormous creatures. I mean, if you cast this and then it re-triggers in the next turn, your Llanowar Elves is a 5/5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like the shout out to Virtue of Loyalty because it also highlights the like risk of a 5-mana sorcery. That card is so good, not because the enchantment is so strong, but it spots you a 2/2 on turn. It spots you a turn 2 play. This does not spot you anything except for pump the board I already have and a 5-mana sorcery. Which how many 5-mana sorceries do we play?
Yeah.
One maybe.
Not many.
The thing I don't like about this card is like as you mentioned, like if you got Wrath, this is pretty rough. But if you get it and you're just doing the green thing, like how do you beat this? How do you win against this if you're just like
Kill every creature they play for the rest of the game, Teld.
yeah, like it feels to me like this is sort of in that Virtue's thing too is you get a couple of turns where you can like answer it and maybe you survive. Once this resolves, you just don't have there's no window to ever interact with. It's an emblem, right? It's just it's an emblem that says you get a +2 on everything. You can't even counter the effect, right? It's a copy, so you would have to have a card that allowed you to like counter a trigger. Like Tashawn's Tidebinder might be the only way in the cube to do it.
Well, you can counter the copies if that's what you're saying.
Okay, can you counter a copy of a spell?
Yeah, because this creates a copy and then casts the copy.
And cast the copy. Okay, sure. I was thinking okay, sure. So you can buy yourself like a turn or two potentially if you're in blue, or white. This seems like incredibly hard to beat, or useless. Mm-hmm. And I think most of the time, given the way that blue is typically played, I feel like you're going to be in a spot where like they're not playing as many Wraths. They're probably playing more counter spells. So like they're probably going to counter this on the way down. But if they don't, you are so dead. You are so unbelievably dead.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Not to mention the fact that like even if you resolve it on like an empty board, like let's say you resolve it on an empty board, but you're not really under super direct threat. I mean, how many counters do you have to get off of it for it to be worth it? Combined with the fact that like once it's resolved, it's not interactable on any axis except for burning counter magic on the stack to counter a free spell. Which like the minute that your opponent is burning a counter spell to like counter the rebound of this spell, like they're in trouble, right? That's not what they want to be spending counter magic on. So this card, I think it's a little hard to evaluate for me personally. But I have a feeling that if you can accelerate this out like relatively early through an open window and you're not going to die from like the tempo loss, then it's going to be pretty hard to beat you. Unless you're in a cube environment where your opponent is doing some like combo thing that wins the game through some metric other than creature combat. Mm-hmm. This card could be mediocre. I could also imagine a situation where we play it for a month and we get complaining about it.
Polar. P word. So I mean, it's definitely the most cubable of these lessons. Which again, lessons.
Oh yeah, if you can learn this,
pull this out of your sideboard.
Is, like, ridiculous. Yeah, Professor Symbology tutor this. Oh my goodness.
God. This is actually, or what is the gnarled professor? You know, the 5/4 trample into always draw this, but never have to use a deck slot on it. Seems incredible, but. That's probably enough.
Something we're gonna do, but yeah.
It's enough on that one. Let's test it and see if we get complaints or if it's a dud. It could go either way. Speaking of which,
I think we should try it. Yeah.
Sylvan Library from the special guest. I have no idea how to evaluate Sylvan Library in a cube like ours. I could see it being complete trash or just like really, really powerful. It's for those who have never played with it. It's 1 in a green enchantment. At the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand drawn that turn. For each of those cards, pay 4 life or put it on top of your library. So no matter what, you draw 2 additional cards on your draw step, and then for each of those extra cards, you can pay 4 life to keep the card, or you could just put it back on top. So it's almost like a scry that you can use your life total to just power out extra cards into your hand. What do you guys think about this? I don't know. Like, it's either like broken or like terrible. I have no idea for a cube like ours.
I think most of the time you can't pay life for this, but when you, I mean, like against blue decks maybe, but I mean, it does give you selection too, right? Like gives you a little bit.
I have a hard time imagining that this is bad, because like especially the really ramp oriented green decks are very AV, right? Like if you're a really ramp oriented green deck, one of the ways that you tend to die is that you generate a bunch of mana and then you just don't find the shit that you need to find to pay yourself off. And like even if you never pay the life to draw a card, like I think that, and it's not really scry 2. It's not scry 2 every turn because you can't bottom cards.
Yeah, it's
the way that you like.
Not exactly the
I
same.
have a hard time imagining that it's. I have a hard time imagining where it would be bad. I think the question for me would be more. I don't know. Do you guys want to test this?
Probably should, because I mean, all right.
I think so. I mean,
there's a couple of things.
It's a pedigree card.
I mean, it does give you some game against blue decks, which are one of green's worst matchups, right? Because being able to pay, like, say you do this once, drawing an extra card it replaces it at least. But like, also there's some kind of neat synergies, you know, with like Vivian and Ranger's class being able to like stack creatures on top to trigger them. There's also like Mischievous Mystic. I don't know how often we're playing this, but like it does give you a way to trigger Mischievous Mystic every turn in your Simic deck.
Replicator, whatever, the copter. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some neat things that go on here. I think this card is not nearly as good as people are going to mentally index to, though. Like, I think people are going to...
I mean, probably not.
I think people are going to assume this card's broken, and I think it's just going to be okay.
I mean, I feel like general consensus in Magic is that Sylvan Library is not some insane card anymore. But for our purposes, I feel like this is hard to be too bad without being broken, which to me is like the perfect kind of, yeah, let's play this pedigree card that everyone knows and people like, and see how it does. But, you know, it's historically very powerful, and you could see a world where like you just get run over trying to do stuff like this. But yeah, I think we should try it out. I just wanted to get your guys' take on it. It's a hard one to parse out. I think we should test it.
I mean, the question for a cube like ours is like Sylvan Library obviously historically has been very powerful in environments where you're doing like AD combo shit, and like anything that you can use to spend life to find the second card that you don't have that just wins the game on the spot is good.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, what is Sylvan Library like as a fair card? And I think that we'll figure that out through playtesting.
Yep, totally agree there. All right, glad to hear that, actually. I like Sylvan Library a lot. All right, getting into the gold section. Again, there's not too many gold cards that I picked out. A lot of them are very parasitic, and they're big Elder Dragons with splashy commander effects or charms and stuff like that. Yeah, I did pick out like one of them. It felt like we should talk about one of them, but and Teld, I know you mentioned this in a chat, so I wanted to pick out Quandrix here. So Quandrix the Proof is for
great art.
Yeah, the Elder Dragon art. And these have alternate art. That's great too. But 6 mana, 4 green-blue for a 6/6 legendary Elder Dragon with flying, trample, cascade, and your instants and sorceries have cascade as well. So giant Bloodbraid elf that gives all your instants and sorceries cascade as well. I cannot imagine we're playing this card, especially Chris is not a cascade lover to begin with, but. If you are interested in a big Simic ramp target, it seems as good as the best of them with like your Bonnie Pauls and your Comas and stuff like that. Just big dumb value ramp target for Simic or Quandrix, sorry.
Yeah, this reminds me of what's the Emoti? Is that the card in Peasant that
Yeah.
You cascades
3/1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's enough on that. Like this is the design of the Elder Dragon. There is a cool Orzhov one. There's a cool Warhold one, like Boros one. The Is It one doesn't make any sense in Cube. The Golgari one doesn't make that much sense in like they're big splashy mythic rares that are aimed at commander.
I did want to talk about the Is It one for just a second because I did find it very funny that we had this conversation about like Quandrix like separate or Prismari separates itself from Is It a little bit, and then they just print a Niv Mizzet. They just literally Quandrix is just a new Niv Mizzet.
Just the most Is It coded card of all time.
Yeah.
Okay, so Quandrix, one to mention that as kind of a placeholder for Elder Dragons are cool. Play with them if you're into battle cruisers. Not for us. Two of the charms I put on this list, the first one being Quandrix Charm. This is blue-green for an instant. Choose one, counter a spell unless its controller pays 2, destroy target enchantment, or target creature has base power and toughness 5/5 until end of turn. So quench, destroy an enchantment, pump a creature.
I mean, these are all...
Would this have been too good if the destroy mode also hit artifacts?
I think they don't do that on charms so that they have like other modes to use on other charms to make them distinct, you know? Like it's so easy to just like you have to make 5 charms. It's like don't make them do too many things on any given bullet point.
I would like to point out the swath of ridiculous Simic cards we run and move on with life.
Okay.
How is Gene Morphomongo performed?
Teld says it's great. I think it's like medium, but I haven't seen it that much. So if you're seeing it in play and it looks good, I'll defer to Teld's opinion there.
I will say this before we move on. Simic cards for a really long time had this like, I guess it's like it puts stats, but like cards also, like every Simic card was some variation of like that kind of value. And to me, the most interesting thing about the combination about blue and green cards is board presence plus tempo. And I do think that this is a neat little tempo card.
That's fine. It's just the level of power we're playing at. These modes just don't really do enough, even if they're all like totally fine modes.
Yep.
Fully agree. Just noting that I like tempo-oriented Simic cards, and this is a tempo-oriented Simic
this is the exact kind of card I like. It's a counter spell that also can let you turn the thing into a 5/5. Problem is I've gotten really used to my counter spell also giving my creature +5/+5.
This pales in comparison. This pales in comparison to Repulsive Mutation, which I think might be the best Simic card ever printed.
And that's kind of a story of charms in general. Is like the modality doesn't quite get over the hump for a lot of them. I will mention the Boros charm.
If those were like 2 Quandrix Command and I could do both, I'd be super into it.
Well, yeah. All right, and one last Quandrix card here. Apply Geometry. This is 2 green blue for a sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target non-aura permanent you control, except it's a 0/0 fractal in addition to its other types, and put 6 +1/+1 counters on it. So,
that's neat.
4 mana 6/6 that copies anything on your side of the board. Notably, this does not work with legendaries. Unfortunately, you would legend rule yourself, but it's never dead because you can always target one of your lands if you just don't have something else to target. I was looking through blue and green and, thinking about what were the best things that you could target with this. And unfortunately, a lot of the targets are legendary, which you could sure upgrade your legendary into a 6/6. But it's a little unfortunate that I think this card is good. It's a 4 mana 6/6 with presumably like extra text from whatever you're copying. But a lot of the section being composed of good legendaries. Like you would love to cast this on a Malcolm and have a 6/6 Malcolm, but it's legendary, so you'd lose your other Malcolm.
Aura Void sticks out to me as like the ridiculous thing you could do, but if you've untapped with an Aura Void, do you really need more Aura Void?
Sure. Yeah, my mind immediately went to 2-drops. What 2-drop could I curve into this? But there's 3 drops. Ornery Tumblewag would be an insane card to copy here. The 1-drop increment guy, Kyrian Beastcaller came to mind. The guy that dies into a creature equal to the number of counters on it is good. So I think this is a clearly good card with not clearly good targets. And I've always said in the past too that like you just don't need clones. If you are interested, I think this is a very good clone because it's huge. It's 4 mana 6/6, but how many clones do you need? It's good with like creature lands, Hall of the Storm Giant type stuff, I guess. It's good with those restless lands as well because those don't even need to animate to get their trigger. You just, if they're already a creature, they get their trigger when they attack. So like Restless Vinestalk, you can make a 6/6 Restless Vinestalk that does the thing when it attacks. You could even animate it, turn it into an 11/11 or whatever. So there's probably some cool things you can do with this. I wanted to mention it mostly because it's 4 mana 6/6 with extra text on it.
Yeah, it's a cool clone that suffers from all the problems that clones suffer from.
Yep. Plus, again, stacked Simic section. Elite in your Bant Cocaine deck, Elite Spellbinder into a 6/6 Elite Spellbinder.
Yeah,
That seems pretty sick to
Ooh.
me.
pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
In addition to its other types, I do wonder. Okay, never mind. Two, what is this called? Prismari cards. Traumatic Critique. This is X blue red for an instant. Deals X damage to any target. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card. I don't think we have room for this, but it is like the best.
What is the card that this reminds me of?
Thrill of Possibility? Because it's if X is 0, it's a good Thrill of Possibility in an Is It deck, and then you kick it for X to deal X damage as well.
No, I'm thinking of that card that people combined with Wilderness Reclamation, that weird
Expansion
Expansion
Explosion.
Explosion, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think we have room for this, but I know people love their like Chart a Course, Thrill of Possibility style cards, like the draw 2 discard ones in whatever order you put them in. And if you have an Is It slot open, this is better than all of those. So it is a gold version of that, unfortunately. If this was like
We've got like
red
two
card
to.
or-
I think we've got like 2 to 3 Is It slots that are flexible enough that if we wanted to test this, we could. I just don't think it's particularly exciting. Like, it seems fine.
Yeah, it's not.
We could try it. I think here's my thing. We've seen this with like every fireball that they've printed recently, is that as creatures get progressively larger, any fireball style spell that requires more than 1 mana that doesn't feed into the amount of damage that you're doing, like you have to spend 4 mana to kill something with 2 toughness. And then the upside is you draw 2 discard. Like, I honestly, you guys tell me if I'm being crazy, but I feel like this could have been X plus 1, and it still would be like,
So it'd be
I think
like
it'd be
seems fine.
playful shove that loots as well as doing what it does at instant speed.
Yeah. I think that'd be fine. I do think that's the wrong way to think about this card, though. I think you think about this card as blue-red, like ignore the fireball. Ignore the fireball. It's a kicker cost that you can add on to your card filter and card. And, if you snipe an Elite Spellbinder or whatever, like you ping something for an extra point of mana on top of your card filter and it's good. Like the problem with fireballs is that that's all they do. They're just fireballs and they're always behind the curve. But this is a draw spell that tacks on a fireball as a kicker cost. And I think there's some, merit to that. Granted, we don't want a gold slot on Thrill of Possibility. Like we would never do that if it was just the draw half of this, but maybe combine them together and you've actually got like something going on there. Like on 4 mana, kill a 2/2, draw 2, discard a card. Doesn't strike me as terrible if, the 2/2 you're killing is a card worth killing.
In keeping with Is It tradition, I'm way more interested in this uncommon that we're going to talk about next.
The uncommon's probably better is the funny thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can move on. I do think I wanted to mention it specifically for that reason, that I think it's easy to think about this as fireball with extra text, and I think it's draw spell or filter spell with extra text instead is the way to think about it.
I think you're onto something there, yeah. Especially considering the number of blue cards that we're playing that care about how many cards you drew this turn.
Yeah. Okay, Vibrant Outburst. Blue-red, instant, uncommon. Deals 3 damage to any target. Tap up to 1 target creature. People are comparing it to Lightning Helix here. Joke being that tap a creature kind of saves you 3 life or whatever. We're going to talk about this for Peasant as well. I'm confident this is better than Lightning Helix, and I think a color pair that uses it better.
This is like Helix when you need it to be Helix, but also like when you need it to be, it's also Moment of Dread? Is that the name of the card that taps 2 things?
Yeah, this clears 2 blockers. That's huge for a Prowess style deck. And if you are a defensive Is It deck, like it clears 2 attackers. So
I mean, honestly, given the size of creatures, like I assume most of the time against the decks that you really want this, it's probably blocking like 4 or 5 points of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I when I initially read this card, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then the more that I thought about it, like, I think that there was a period in Magic's history where, like, Is It Control was arguably a deck you could build in your cube. And, like, you still can if you're, like, frozen in time or whatever. But with the designs that exist, now, I can't imagine a situation where I'm playing Izzet control over like Azorius or Dimir control. I can imagine adding red to either one of those decks, but like purely Izzet control is a little sketchier. I think that Izzet, the way that we've designed it for sure, but like at the risk of sounding like a douchebag, I think it's the right way to design Izzet based on the type of cards they've printed for Izzet. Izzet tends to be like a red deck that is trying to kill your opponent and leverage prowess.
Unless it's a
And
control
the
deck, but then you're
tapping-
playing Grixis.
Then you're exactly, and then you're playing Grixis, and then like you're sporting Doomblades and shit like that. I think that if we were to test this card, and if the listener were to test this card, there are going to be a shocking number of games where the fact that the 3 damage can go anywhere, and the most problematic creature on the board can be tapped pre-attacks and trigger your prowess guys. I think this card's going to kill people a lot. What do you guys think?
I agree with that total assessment. I also think this is, I mean, I read this as, is it prowess, get 2 blockers out of the way, one of them permanently, you know?
Yeah, I think this is a really easy card when you're just like skimming the card file to glance over and not really pay attention to, because the tap when you first read it is like, oh, it just taps the thing, whatever. But like when you start thinking about how that's gonna work with a removal spell, it's like, wow, this is quite a bit. Yeah, like just like also there's, I mean, this obviously you should never just assume you're gonna have it, but like you can like do stuff with this like Snapcaster Mage, getting new life here and just like clearing out a bunch of blockers.
Yep.
You know, it can force your opponent to overcommit a little bit. Like it can clean up. I really does this go face as well, or is it gotta be?
It does.
Yeah, it goes face. Goes face too.
Any target.
Yeah.
Target yourself.
Goes face too. Planeswalker creature face doesn't matter. Goes anywhere.
Yeah, this
And
is
it has 2 targets, so it can't be fizzled. Like,
this is really good.
you can even, I mean, very, very minor, but you can even toss the tap on your own Emberheart Challenger or whatever after attacking with it to get like the impulse draw or whatever. You know, there's times where just touching a creature is worth it sometimes. I just think 2 mana, get 2 blocker, like kill a creature, get another blocker out of the way is something I'm trying to think of a comp for, like, is it? And obviously we've always had falter effects, just like, oh, creatures can't block this turn, but they don't have a permanent effect on the game beyond like pushing that damage for the turn. And this does. This,
you know what this
just
card
removes
is?
a creature.
Do you remember the
And it
card
goes
from?
face.
Do you remember the card from Duskmourn that we tried? It was like 1 mana, and you select 2 creatures, and it's like the saw game or whatever. This is that, but you get to pick the creatures, and it goes face.
Yeah, 1 creature can't block and deals 5 to the other one or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's instant.
And to build on something that Teld said a second ago, like I think this is going to be a card. Funnily enough, because the text is very simple, but I think this is going to be a card that like our best players who are thinking like several steps ahead are going to be able. I think this is going to be like a card that really rewards next level like decision making as well. A lot of games come down to the wire where maybe your opponent attacked with like 1 too many creatures, or like didn't think about how the damage race was going to play out, or alternatively they did think that through surgically and they made decisions that are predicated on the idea that like you're not going to be able to interact with 2 things simultaneously, and this will change the balance of power and will take you from barely losing to barely winning. I think this card's fabulous. But what were you going to say?
This card is so good with Dragonkin Berserker. Like, because sometimes your opponent will set up spots where, like, they know that they can just double block it, and it's like, all right, maybe you'll get the 5/5, which is good. Like, you're fine. They don't take your whole turn. This can create spots where Dragonkin Berserker gets through. You cast this at the end of their turn, tap down a thing, kill a thing, and now your Dragonkin Berserker attacks, and you get to make a 5/5 and keep it in play. And I don't know if for the people at home who haven't maybe played a lot with that card, the games where you untap with a Dragonkin Berserker after making a 5/5 are like you get to live with that card, and they have to either kill it on their turn or like you get to attack with it again. You just don't lose those games very often. The card usually, the thing is it's usually like transforms into a 5/5, right? Because the thing dies while attacking, and if you get through that attack, that's pretty good. Yeah, wow, this card's really actually surprisingly excited. Like really good with FOMO as well, because like if you're tapping down a dude, you're sneaking through a bunch of extra unpredictable damage. Like this is a incredible.
attack trigger, any proactive attack trigger, this is going to be great with, because you can be in it. I'm surprised it's not a sorcery, honestly. Because you get to just untap haste.
It's gonna pay you off in situations with Svalin. It's gonna pay you off in situations with whatever the fucking cowboy eagle thing, right? If they have like one flying blocker that can deal with it.
I'm gonna go ahead and make my hot take. This is the aggro is it version of expressive iteration. I don't think it's gonna end up banned in a million formats, but like expressive iteration is a completely like game defining card for mid range decks when you're playing it. Like it's such good value, such consistency. This sort of feels like it might be in the same space for like more aggressively inclined decks where you're like it becomes a card that your entire game plan ends up revolving around. It's like if I draw this card, I'm just gonna win the game.
Yeah, I think maybe like everything that we just said can be distilled down to one thing, which is that if your deck can not just leverage the individual effect, but can leverage the fact that you are casting the effect, i.e. prowess or whatever, the amount of single turn tempo that this can generate across a variety of different axes can just win you the game.
For sure.
Yeah, wow, this is like, I've not put a lot of thought into this card until like literally us having this conversation. This might be like one of the best cards in the entire set.
It could be.
I think
for
it's
the deck
good.
that wants it specifically, yeah. Which it's funny to your point, Chris. It is seem like obviously better than the X-Spell rare right above it, but
yeah, which is I mean that's crazy. That's just kind of like is it cards, right? They print these. One blue, one red, does a combination of a blue thing and a red thing, and it turns out that's fucking nuts.
That's great.
And it's better than the more complicated shit that they try to print.
Yeah, wow.
Probably could have let off on a more exciting card here at the end, but I wanted to discuss Warhold Charm too. This is red-white instant. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token artifact. Return target artifact or creature with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, or creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. This might also have like the charm problem, but I do think the artifacts that dissection tools, Smuggler's Copter, Reckoner Bankbuster, Currency Converter, vehicles, unlicensed. What is the hovercraft? We actually play like a large number of artifacts these days. I do think the first mode on this is like actually kind of real, whereas in Peasant it's kind of not. The second mode, mana value 2 or less is way worse than like Help in Hand mana value 3 or less, but it gets back all those cards I just mentioned, the Smuggler's Copter and stuff like that. And you're talking about getting back your inties and your good 2-drops when we're talking about higher power level.
Voice of Victory.
Yeah, but that sounds great.
I think the main mode of this card though is the third one is like the reason we're putting it in our deck, I assume.
+1/+1 trample on all your creatures.
Yes.
Pushes damage. Yeah. This is one where actually I think this is an example of great modality, because in a Boros deck, like I could see one in the second and third mode. I do think the third mode is the one that you're hoping to like use more often than not, because when you're using it, you're winning the game. But if your plan is not going well, that second mode actually does make up pretty well for having the aggro mode on the third one. And then I think the first mode will come up and you'll use it when it's right to like kill your opponent's dissection tools or whatever. So I do like this.
Being critical there, yeah.
Yeah, non-token artifact, so it doesn't like blank on a treasure or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
Is it worth a gold slot? That's the question. I think it is clearly good enough for a Boros deck. Is it worth a Boros slot in a 360 cube? That's a little tougher.
Yeah. I think if we're playing this, like I said, it's I mean, the flexibility of like we're ahead so we get to convert to damage, we're behind so we get to like slow you down or buy back our dude that died. Pretty good. So really, like Voice of Victory is a really, like you mentioned, is a really interesting card with this card because we can use it to kind of silence our opponent. We cast this like at their end step or whatever to bring that Voice of Victory. Now they have to either kill it immediately or we, get a free turn. If we're ahead, we can use it to like put a bunch of damage with Voice of Victory. So I really like that combination. Is this better than Catharsis or like War Leader's Call, Showdown the Skull type space? I don't know, but like there's definitely some output here. I like this card better in Peasant just because I think the modes are going to line up better, but I still think there's like the +1/+1 in trample for 2 mana at instant speed we don't have a lot of cards that do that.
Well, we wouldn't play that card on its own either, so
No.
like even if we do have stuff like that, we're probably not playing it because that's probably all it does, right?
Yeah.
Whereas when you tack on recursion plus aggressive mode plus kind of interaction, 10% of the time interaction, I think that's what makes a modal card good, because you're happy to click the second or third mode here in your Boros decks.
Yeah, very funny to have your opponent be like, anyways, here's Embercleave, and then you counter their Embercleave for 2
Blow
mana.
up your Embercleave. Yeah. So yeah, I like this. We can have a discussion off air about whether it actually is going to take the spot of another card, because you're probably cutting something really strong for this. But I do think it's like good enough, especially compared to a lot of the other charms don't have a third mode that matters. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and there, for what it's worth, there are a lot of other really cool gold cards in this set that just don't make sense to play. There's like a blink spell that also impulse draws, and you can cast the creature that was exiled. There's a lot of cool stuff in this set that either revolves around life gain, or casting spells from your graveyard, or casting instants of sorcery. So it's a little bit of a shame, but we don't need to take up another hour talking about cool cards that have no contact, no place in a cube like ours. So, okay, that brings a close to everything that I added. Again, I kind of compiled a lot of this. Chris, I bet if you look through this this set, you would find some stuff that like really sparks joy for you that like completely misses for me. So I recommend looking through it. The bonus sheet probably might have another card or two that slipped through that I didn't really think about. It's a pretty hefty bonus sheet, and then there's special guests. There's the commander face cards that I looked through like very sparingly that we're gonna get that didn't really seem like they were worth mentioning. So there's a lot going on here in addition to everything we just talked about. And yeah, it looks like we're gonna get something, at least something to test out in each color, except maybe red. A little bummed about that red lightning bolt emeritus, but my just kind of like bow on my thoughts is I think the design of this set is really, really cool. It strikes like way more joy immediately than original Strixhaven did, because each of the guilds is not just a magecraft guild. It actually has a theme, like a real theme for each one that doesn't feel like it's just the same theme for all 5 schools. And I do think the mechanics are cool. I think repartee is really cool. Not for us. I think prepared is awesome. I love prepared. It reminds me of MDFCs, how we get to shove a bunch of these like lands into our decks and spells into our decks without like diluting the density of either one. And now we get to jam a bunch of creatures in our deck and a bunch of spells in our deck while maintaining the other one. I think that's really, really sweet, and they did a good job of just making them flashy and cool. You get to cast Swords to Plowshares, you get to cast Ancestral Recall, Demonic Tutor. Like, yeah, that's just, maybe they're selling me packs, but I'm gonna buy the packs because of that. So only thing I'll say is Infusion, Witherbloom, like life gains, like come on, man, like that wasn't even the cool part of that school the first time around. That was just incidental because the pests did that. But those are my thoughts. I think the set's really cool. I'm pretty stoked, and again, the bar is always like, my excitement's always a lot higher when you're coming off of Universes Beyond. So I'm just gonna naturally be more excited about the in-universe sets than
actual
I would be.
Magic cards.
Yeah. Speaking of, what set are we getting in 6 weeks?
Shut up, Teld.
No, seriously, what are we getting?
There's too many for me to count.
Well, what are we getting? We're getting Through the Omen Paths 2.
Oh, it's that set. Oh God, it's that set.
Oh yeah, no, Marvel Superheroes is the next set.
Oh.
But what do you guys think about Strixhaven? The here and now. You got to live in the moment, guys. You can't. You got to live in the moment.
A lot of exciting
I think
cards.
it's a lot more powerful than the first go round.
Yeah. Boy, there's a lot of good green cards in this set.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4,
like 5 green
5,
cards
6.
we talked
It looks
about.
like
There were 6
7.
green cards.
We talked about 8, and one of them's that peasant all-star basic land. It looks like there's 8 cards that we all could try out for green here. So, yikes. That's going to be a tough one. The after show conversation about what to actually cut to play these cards is going to be a lot rougher. But yeah, so that looks cool. Setting. Who cares about the setting? Nobody cares. But
I actually really like
individual
Prepared.
card
I'm
design's
sad that they'll probably make the decision to like never have it show up again. But I think it's a really cool use of space.
Yeah. return to Strixhaven again in 2031. Bring back Prepared.
Oh no, it'll be
also
Hogwarts
cool-
Universes Beyond by then.
Please don't say 2031 out loud. I don't even want to.
Yeah, let's not think about it. Cool way to skirt the reserved list too. Like big middle finger to the reserved list. I
Reserve
love
list in
stuff like
shambles.
that. Yeah. Okay. That seems like a good stopping point. To the listener, we will be back, myself, Teld, and Danelius, to talk about Peasant, where we're gonna have to
Are you
rapid
guys recording
fire.
that today? Are you guys
No,
recording
God,
that
no. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
It'll be there'll be a week's time between this one and that one for the listener. So if this one comes out first, which it should, stay tuned for the Peasant Cube review, where we'll talk about a lot more of everything here, except for Paradigm, because it's all mythics. But yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it. Thanks as always to listening. Remember, you can find the Jank Diver Gaming Discord down below wherever you're listening to this in the description. You can come join that Discord. Come play with some of the literal best limited players in the world are playing Cube with you. Like, come play with them. They're awesome, and they're fun people to hang out with. It's like the win-win. They're good, and they don't suck to hang out with. I love that. And yeah, remember our socials, youtube.com/jankdivergaming, and find Teld streaming on twitch.tv/Teld Talks. That's going to go ahead and do it for this one. Thanks to Chris and Teld for hanging out, talking about some Strixhaven 2.0, and to the listener, we will catch you all next time.